Let's remain standing, and then I invite Esther Knott to have the opening prayer. Esther is the Associate Director in Ministerial for the North American Division. She also is the Director of the MA program in Pastoral Ministry at Andrews University, the seminary there.
Let's pray. Dear God, we are so grateful for the gift of the Sabbath and for the change in schedule and the pace of our lives that it gives. And we come from all over the world where some of our friends and members are ending the Sabbath and some are just gathering now to go to church. So we ask that the same Holy Spirit that is present with us will be with them. And in these moments, we just acknowledge your presence and we ask that you indeed be the Lord of all. And as we listen to these presentations of how the church is investing its money and its time and its energy so that the gospel can spread, that we find ways to connect and to participate. We long to see you come. Thank you for the privilege of serving in your kingdom here, even as we prepare for the kingdom to come. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
You may be seated, and I'll ask Dr. Müller, Eckhard Müller, to come to the platform while he prepares. Let me just share with you briefly what we have in mind for this afternoon. I'm glad you made it. I see that some take Sabbath rest rather literal and might need some rest here, but you will not regret being here. What we have planned for this afternoon is to give you a little insight and overview of different institutes and departments of our church and what they are doing for the worldwide church. And I'm proud to be a Seventh-day Adventist because our church has invested in various ministries in a major way, and we will hear some of that. The first to give a report is Eckhard Müller. He is one of my colleagues at the Biblical Research Institute at the General Conference. He is originally from the same country that I'm from. He is from Germany, and he is the longest serving member at the BRI. And he will give us a short overview of some publication projects that the BRI is currently engaged in. So the word is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Frank. BRI is engaged in many different projects, as you can imagine, and I cannot enumerate all of them. So I will focus on what we do with regard to publications. Yeah, and it's good for you to know what is going on because it may affect you. Here, first of all, is our website, and I would recommend you to check that out here and there. There's also the website address. This is the newsletter. We publish the newsletter once a quarter, and Frank is momentarily the editor. Okay, here's the website. I have two things to hold in my hands and then promote here the computer. Okay, here's the newsletter. The first project that I want to mention is the textbook project. So the General Conference has asked us some time ago to prepare textbooks that can be used in colleges, mostly in colleges. So with one exception, these textbooks are undergraduate. There's one textbook which is on graduate level. And this has grown over the time. So you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 textbooks. The first one is Life and Teachings of Jesus. This is a course which is taught basically in all colleges. And we would recommend you to consider this textbook. I will show that in a moment. The second one is Christian Beliefs. We had asked Dr. Miroslav Kish to write that, and PRICOM has seen a number of his articles or his chapters, but unfortunately he passed away, and he could not finish that. So John Peckham was willing to take that up. He publishes quite a bit, but also quite busy. So he will be the author for this one. The third textbook is on the sanctuary. This textbook is in, so the first one is about to be published. The third one we have in-house. And Dr. Elias is the editor going through that. We have presented some chapters to BRICOM, but it's impossible to show all of them because it's way too much. Then the committee is busy for the next years. So this is a wonderful textbook, and this is on graduate level. So this is the only one which is for graduates. Dr. Davidson considers to tone that down so that one day it may be also available for undergraduates. Okay, this important textbook on the sanctuary. Gerhard Pfandl has written a textbook on Daniel. We have also this textbook. In the beginning, we considered to have one textbook on Daniel and Revelation, but it turned out that it is too much, so divided that. And this textbook we have two, and Angel Rodriguez was willing to help us and go over that, and some corrections need to be made, as this is very normal. So I have the textbook on Revelation, and I'm struggling because I have so many other things to go. And then we have one on the spirit of prophecy, and Frank Castle was originally the author, but we decided to, in order to speed that up, to use multiple authors. The last one is on spirituality, when Dr. Kwabena Donkor is responsible for this one. Okay, the good news is this is the cover of the textbook. This book was published first as a non-textbook because it's very good to read, and it has been converted in a textbook, and here is it. I mean, it's still not in bound form, but we have the full textbook here in front of us, and we hope that this will be published for the fall semester. Yeah? So we have just to give permission for the print, and then this can go. So that is prepared by Andrews University Press and being published by Andrews University Press. And I would encourage you, those who teach Life and Teachings of Jesus, to look at this textbook and possibly use that textbook, because that was the intention of the GC, that the textbooks that we prepare are also being used. Okay, enough about the textbooks, because there are many other things. You have seen probably our first book here on marriage, which was published at the GC session. We are working on the next 2 volumes. The next one is dealing with sexuality. We have almost all chapters in, but they need to be edited. So we are dealing here with some tricky issues, but this is a major problem that we face in these days, and so this has to be addressed. We have some books on this topic, but oftentimes more from a counseling perspective, whereas we use also people who have some knowledge or are even counselors, but we approach that from a biblical perspective, okay? So this is different from others. You may have seen other books. Yeah, there was one published by the Mission Office that will be different because this approaches the topics theologically, biblically. The last one is family, so there is, again, this consists of 2 sections, a section dealing again with issues of marriage, and the other one then with issues of family. Here I give you some working titles on the second one. This is not the full table of content, but that you know what is in the making. So, for example, the first one, does sexual intercourse constitute marriage? So if you have sex with someone else, are you married? This is oftentimes what our young people think. Marriage-like partnerships, so this deals with cohabitation, having a wife and a mistress. These are things that actually the church is struggling with. So we are not talking about subjects that are just in society. We are talking about things that we have in church. Polygamy, female mutilation, genital mutilation, prostitution and human trafficking, rape, sexual addictions, abortion, sexual abuse of children, queer theology, homosexuality. We have 2 chapters on transgenderism, and then cybersex and robotic sex. As I said, these are not all the chapters, but you know, these are challenging topics. So we are dealing with these topics, and we hope to be able to publish that soon so that it can be available and helpful. Okay, these are some topics in the 3rd volume. The first part in marriage, marriage and culture, arranged marriages, child marriages, incest, use and abuse of dowry, contemporary levirate marriage. And then the titles on family issues, why is it good to have children, artificial insemination and cloning, genetically engineered embryos, foster homes and adoption, surrogate mothers, children of divorced couples, parenting in scripture, and the spiritual life of a family. As I said, these are some titles, but you get an idea, and I hope you are already looking forward to the publication of these books. The next project that we have is the Sabbath project. This is a long project. Because it was on the back burner, and we have taken it up. We envisioned originally to have 4 volumes, and we will just probably put this together in 2 volumes, Old and New Testament. And this is will be scholarly material, because on popular level we have material, but we have to be able to defend our faith also over against other scholars and churches. Yeah? So in order to replace what Dr. Strand has done, these will be topics about the Sabbath. We will have new biblical research releases. These are short brochures. For example, Eternal Generation and Subordination of Jesus, Adventist Lifestyle, and then several brochures on hermeneutics. This will be for the next GC session. Then the Creation Project. The Creation Project is being done in conjunction with the Faith and Science Council. Yeah, these were some of the chapters in the New Testament volume. This is, thank you for pointing it out, releases. And here, this has been published. This is available in 2 versions. The scholarly version was published with AU Press and is available there, and there's a popular version which was published by Pacific Press. So this went through the Faith and Science Council. The Faith and Science Council consists of GRI, the Geoscience Institute, Research Institute, BRI, some scientists, additional scientists, and some additional scholars, administrators, and some educators. This is basically Faith and Science, yeah? So this is a project of the Faith and Science Council, but BRI is responsible for the theological part to be carried through. There will be a new volume coming now, and the title will be the Genesis Creation Account and its reverberations in the New Testament. So Tom Shepard, who is here, is the editor of that, and also here in this case we have almost all the chapters in. Yeah. So this is the New Testament part. This is fake here. I have modified that because this is how the commentary looks like. But we have been asked to work on a dictionary. And I have talked with Pacific Press. It should have a similar look as the commentary has. Yeah, so I put just the name of the dictionary on there. So we are working on a biblical theological dictionary, and so almost the entire world field is helping us on that. And Frank and I are the editor. Here you have the other editors. Next, you see quite a number of names: the editors, associate editors, assistant editors, and this is a huge project because we have about 6,000 entries that we are dealing with, and we guess these will be 4 volumes. The difference to the old dictionary is the old one was a biblical dictionary. This one will be a biblical theological dictionary. In other words, you have terms, theological terms, like here, eschatology. You find eschatology not in Scripture, so you cannot put it in a dictionary, in a biblical dictionary, or you cannot put Trinity, the term Trinity, in a biblical dictionary, because it's not mentioned in Scripture, yeah? But there are theological terms and theological topics and ethical topics, yeah, that we need to deal with, and this is what the dictionary is doing. We have here different divisions, and the next list is, you see several divisions. They have received letters of the alphabet and are working on that. Some came just recently. So on top of these, you see we have a lot of publication projects, and we are just 5 in the Biblical Research Institute. So we have all hands full because this is just part of our work. So we are also involved in the Seventh-day Adventist International Commentary, the Encyclopedia. Frank is one of the editors there also, and in the Theodicy project of Faith and Science. We write and were involved in official statements for the church. In some case, we have, for example, written the statement on transgenderism. I hope you have seen that. That was published not long ago and voted not long ago. We have suggested revisions on the statement which were accepted on care for the dying. And then we have our own ethics committee statements or opinions, however we call that. So this has not the same value as the voted statements by the church. But still, I mean, divisions have asked us for some statements, and this is what we have provided. To give you an example, in vitro fertilization of a single woman, not married, so what do you say about this? Sex change surgery, marriage of transgender persons, surrogate motherhood, the death penalty, child dedication. So should the church get involved in discussion on the death penalty? And here, the next, you see our current staff. It does not include directly Angel, but he helps us anyway, yeah? Because these are the full-time members. But we appreciate Angel's work very much, and Gerhard also helps us a little bit. Okay, this was it. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us.
Aren't you glad that our church has something like the BRI? And if you ever wonder how we will manage with all these writing projects that you've heard, it's by the grace of God, really. And we need your prayers for that. This is not the only writing project, major writing project that we currently are engaged in as a church. And I'd like to ask Dr. Dukan to come to the platform now. Dr. Dukan is a long-standing professor for Old Testament and Hebrew at the seminary at Andrews University, and he is the editor of the new International SDA Bible Commentary. And he will give us a short report on the progress and the project.
Okay, it has to be a short report, so you will excuse me if I will be brief. I will try to be focused. First of all, let me tell you exactly where we are going. I want to, first of all, make some comments on the title, SDAIBC. Then we'll talk about the need for this new animal coming. And then I will describe a little bit the writing process. And finally, I will talk about the time, and then I will make a personal conclusion. So this is where we are going during this short time. SDAIBC is very significant, I believe. It describes the soul, the essence of what we want to do. SDA, right, Seventh-day Adventist, indicates, suggests the identity, the mission, which is involved as a church in this commentary. It also describes the message of this commentary. Seventh Day points to the first page of the Bible, and Adventist points to the last page of the Bible. And in other words, it's supposed to cover the whole Bible with all what it signifies as far as our approach to the scriptures. The need, another thing which I need to say, particularly in this particular time context, the title signifies also something very important, I believe, as far as the philosophy of this commentary, the raison d'être of this commentary. Seventh-day Adventist points to the beginning of time and points to the end of time. So I believe profoundly that this project is an eschatological project. It belongs to our eschatological awareness, consciousness. So this is the way it is supposed to be written. This is why we want the commentary be. The need for this commentary. As you know, the commentary, the former commentary has been written some 70 years ago. Now we are in a new time, right? New world, new people, new knowledge. And we felt that it was timely, urgent, necessary to sit down and write something new which will try to meet this particular challenge of new time and new world and new church, of course. Now let me just describe quickly the writing process. We have first duty of our writers is to write in such a way that it should be close to the biblical text, very respectful to the biblical text, and paying attention to every facet, every verse, every word, as far as possible, of the biblical scriptures, of the canonical scriptures. So this attention to the biblical text in its significance, in its profound meaning, in its beauty also, is going to be one of the particular originalities of this commentary. And I can testify to that this is something we are working on. The second requirement, second character, is that the text, the commentary has to be simple, it has to be clear, it has to be relevant, it has to be interesting, it has to be different, unique. As you can see, this is a great challenge, but we are working on that very seriously. At the same time, and this is perhaps one of the greatest challenge of all the commentary, it has to be respectable. Respectable by people who do not share necessarily our way of thinking, so that they could read the text and recognize that somehow there is something we can bring to them, although they don't share our views. So this is also a missionary project on every level. So now, when the previous commentary has been written, there were about 4 or 5 writers coming from the same place. Now we have a completely different picture of the world. We have even international scholars. So this commentary, we wanted to have it an expression of the whole church. That was also a challenge. We have many, scholars now, biblical scholars, who have been trained all over the world, and we wanted them to be a part of this project. So in that sense also, it's an international commentary because written by international writers. But also not only in the writing process international, and this is perhaps one of the originalities of this commentary, is that we wanted to have this commentary being looked at, read by people all over the world, people from the church. In other words, and for each manuscript, for each text, each manuscript is supposed to be reviewed by there is a reviewing process which is quite complex and very intense. There is first an internal reviewer, that is someone coming from the church, a scholar who is specialized in this particular book. But there is also, we have taken the risk, but we know what we are doing. We are also asking an external reviewer, that is someone who is not a part of our church, but who is somehow close, who shares more or less, the same respect, same high view of scriptures, but he is a biblical scholar, expert on this particular book, but he's not a Seventh-day Adventist. So that at least we can also make some kind of attack also on that level. And this is a very interesting experience because I'm receiving the responses of these reviewers. And in most of the cases, this is a great testimony. And they acknowledged the quality of the work, and also they are intrigued by what we are doing. But there is a third step in the process, and that is the reviewer, as far as the reviewing process is concerned, that is reviewed also by an executive committee who is represented by about a dozen people from Andrews University, from other entities, from BRI. And so we have also, at this stage, we are asking, we are delegating in a way, we are adding to the executive committee and to the internal reviewer another reviewer coming from all over the church, someone from the church who is not necessarily a specialist of this particular book, but who has some kind of vision of the church, who will be also a part of, who will review and give us his view. Okay, I just understand, and I'm concluding. So now for the time, we have received about half of the manuscript. Now we are waiting for the rest in the fall, and the whole set will be 2020. If you don't mind, I have about 5-6 lines I would like to read to conclude, because that gives also the spirit of this writing, because this is a big project, and there is always a risk with this kind of project. And so let me just read what actually I have written in the beginning of this first commentary of the book of Genesis. Writing a commentary on the Bible is an act of arrogance. This act claims implicitly that the writer wants to explain, claims to explain, interpret, and comment on the text. And this implicitly suggests that he understands everything from the Bible, from what the Bible has to say, everything, sometimes even more than the text itself. Yet the fact is quite the opposite. The experience of writing a commentary as a text from another culture, far from another culture, from another time, far removed from us all. A text, we believe, has been inspired by the infinite God of the universe, inevitably brings the potentially arrogant commentator to humility. Humility is a requirement when we write a Bible commentary. This was my personal experience, especially not only because of the text itself, because also of the writing process under the control, under the pressure of so many reviewers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sure he could go on for a long time to tell you more interesting stories that are related to that. But this is not the only commentary we are currently engaged in, and I'd like to ask Dr. Angel Rodriguez to join me here. He will tell you a little bit about another Bible commentary project that he is supervising.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. For about 6 years, Andrews University Press has been working on a 1-volume Bible commentary. It's about 5,000 pages, printed pages. It would be around 1,600 pages. This commentary was conceived as a service of Andrews University Press and the General Conference, the two sponsors of the commentary, a service to the world church. Therefore, it is written in simple language, that is to say, non-theological language, hoping that it will be of assistance to pastors and local churches, leaders around the world. We hope that it will be immediately translated into as many languages as possible. The commentary was conceived as having a central topic running throughout all the Bible books, the concept of hope. Every commentator was to emphasize this dimension of the book. Today, this afternoon, I have good news for you. All the writers, around 58 writers from around the world, have submitted their commentary. With the exception of one of the commentaries, the editors have gone through all of them, and all of them are in the hands of the press. That is to say, the full commentary, all the biblical books, all of them in the hands of the press, and the press is anticipating that the commentary will be out shortly before the General Conference session. And we hope that you will immediately grasp this idea, begin to make plans to have this commentary in the hands of the pastors as soon as possible, immediately, as soon as it is printed. We want to thank the General Conference for sponsoring the project, the initiative of Andrews University. We do believe that it will be a tremendous contribution for the world church. Simple language, easy, accessible, Adventist theology from beginning to end, with many, many essays throughout the commentary addressing topics of importance for the Adventist church. Couple of examples. Cleansing of the sanctuary in Daniel 7 and 8, a whole essay. The theology of the Day of Atonement in Leviticus 16, a whole essay. Clean, unclean animals. You think about it, and you will probably find an article inside the commentary addressing those specific Adventist concerns. Talk about it. Wait, and then go buy them for your church members and your pastor. God bless you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Raul Esperante and his team from the GRI to come to the platform. And I forgot to mention that Dr. Rodriguez is a former director of the BRI. He is retired now, but by no means idle. And we appreciate his help in all this, his work. I'm glad to be a member of the church that has an institute that is called Geoscience Institute, Geoscience Research Institute. I know hardly of any other church that invests money in the natural sciences to have top scientists engaged to wrestle with the issues of evolution, creation, and everything that is connected with that. And I will not say more because you will introduce yourself. So Jim Gibson and your team, you're welcome to tell us more about you and your work.
All right, I would like to, you can see we have several members of the team here. I will ask each one to give a little report and announcement of their particular interest in this activities. We'll start with Dr. Tim Standish, Senior Scientist at Geoscience.
Okay, I'm feeling, there we are. How many of you believe that Jesus Christ is coming soon? Okay, so do I. And yet, in our church, we keep all sorts of secrets to ourselves. Can you take it back to the beginning, please? Back. It will look black. Keep going back. Thank you. All right. I believe Jesus Christ is coming soon. We keep secrets in our church. Secrets about important things. Things that are so secret that they are more secret even than what Hillary Clinton had on her server. Yeah. You just saw one of those secrets. I think Russian hackers may have gotten into my computer. I want to talk about another secret that is there. Our website, grisda.org. There are all kinds of amazing resources there. Films about these incredible Christian scientists who believe in the biblical creation, that Jesus Christ is our creator and redeemer. Who would like to go into the Alps with my colleague, Ronnie Narleen? You can do that on our website. Simply go and look at the resources that are there. It's incredible. And this new series that has just been completed by Noemi Duran for children, it may also be good for you as well, about the Galapagos Islands. Other things that are available there on our website, constantly updated science news, if you're interested in that, scholarly papers, top 10s, if you're trying to figure out what books might be useful and other things. Our Facebook page can be gotten to there, our blog, our newsletter. Where can you get it all? grisda.org. Right, I hope those Russian hackers haven't gotten back into my computer. Yes, they have. Creation Sabbath, when is it? October 27. If you forget when it is, there is just one thing you need to remember. It's a website. It begins with G. grisda.org. If you go there, you can get help with it. So I encourage you to plan for Creation Sabbath. Plan to do things at your institution, whatever it is, on Creation Sabbath. Use the resources that are available there and on the Creation Sabbath website, creationsabbath.net. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We also have a series of branch offices, one in South America, one in Inter-America, one in Northern Asia, and one in Europe. The director of the branch office in Europe is Noemi Duran, who will tell you about her activities.
Evolution is a scientific fact. Have you ever heard that? Our young people are hearing that all the time. They are hearing that from their teachers and professors in their universities and schools, and even those that are in our institutions, they are hearing that message from TV documentaries, from movies, from advertising, even from children cartoons. And they are traveled, and they need answers, and they need something to say when they are asked about these things. So we are trying to give them these answers. But there is just a few of us, so we cannot be in every church in the world giving these answers to people. So we want to train pastors, teachers, and youth leaders to do this task in the churches. So this is from one workshop that I gave in Romania to all the teachers in the divisions. And we don't want teachers telling children, don't study science because it's dangerous. We want them to study science because we need Adventist scientists. And science is fun. And science, when it's well understood, takes us closer to God, to our Creator. And not only we do the training, we also prepare resources and educational materials for anyone in the church that wants to work on this. Any church leader or any youth leader, Pathfinder leaders, teachers, we are preparing educational materials so you can take them and use them in your churches. We are just finishing a set of activities that is called Let's Talk Creation, that they are prepared to do in groups, in classroom groups, in Pathfinder groups, in Sabbath school groups. So you teach is a really easy level, and you can use those to teach through interactive activities with all kinds of students. These are a couple of examples of activities. The previous one was an activity to show how well designed our body, our cells, and our DNA are. and they have to make a protein and see how difficult that is and how you never get that by chance. You need design. And this is a game, this is a giant board game that we designed, and when you play this game, you go through the whole Bible and you review the text that show that creation is not only Genesis 1 to 11. Creation is all through the Bible. So the people that are playing the game, they are reviewing all these texts and seeing that creation is everywhere from Genesis to Revelation.
Thank you. Another activity of Geoscience Research Institute is scientific research. And Ronnie Nalin, a native son of Italy, will share with us our research program.
So this is the red spots there are places in the world, in our beautiful world, where we are doing research projects. So there's not all continents are represented, but hopefully we'll be able in the future to have more. But we are studying in North America, Central America, South America, Europe, and just started some research in Zambia, so in Africa as well. So what do we study? We have a little bit of biology research, mostly run by Noemi, who studies sea turtles. And she is interested in conservation issues, but also issues of speciation, and Dr. Standish also has helped her in these. And then we also are interested in the study of the rock record. So we have geology projects. So with geology projects, we have study of sedimentary rocks, so layered rocks. So we try to understand how these strata formed. But we also have an interest in igneous rocks, rocks that form from magma. And so there's also some projects related to the cooling time. How long does it take for these granites, these magmas to cool, radiometric dating, and plate tectonics. And then finally, we also have an interest in fossils. So some of these projects have to do with paleontology. And the study of fossil whales is the expertise of Dr. Esperante, but he also has a general interest in understanding what happens to organisms from the time when they die to the time in which they become part of the rock record. All these research projects, why do we do them? Our desire is to help and to contribute to an understanding of life as we experience it today and of the rock record as we see it today in the context of a short history from Creation Week. Thank you.
A fourth initiative of GRI is the establishment of what we call resource centers at Adventist universities throughout the world. We have several of these. We've just established one in Zambia. We have one at IS. We have one that's in the process in Puerto Rico at Antillean, and we have one in Peru, one in Chile, and one in Bolivia. And the one in Bolivia is a very special one, and Dr. Esperante is going to tell us about that.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, a few months ago, we opened this center. It's called Cooksonia. Cooksonia. Probably you never heard of that word. Cooksonia is the name of a fossil plant that is this tiny. It's very, very small. It only occurs in a few countries in the world, and one of them is Bolivia. So after some conversations, we decided to name the center Cooksonia. And why? Because that is the name, as I said, of a fossil plant this tiny. Our center is almost insignificant in the world of scientific research. But it will make a big impact in paleontology, geology, faith and science creation. And that's our hope. Isn't it? Yes. Okay. And to explain about Cooksonia and what we do there, we have some of their main actors there. We have Dr. Eber Pinheiro, who is the president of the university, the Adventist University in Bolivia. And we have Judith Ayala, who is the vice president for academic affairs. Eber, can you tell me what Cooksonia is?
Well, thank you, Raul, for the opportunity. for explain what is the Cooksonia. Cooksonia is the center for the study of nature that was opened in October 2017 and on the Bolivia Adventist University campus. The center is a place where students, teachers, and pastors, and the general public come to receive our message about creation and flood evidences, and things about. We have prepared a short video to show you what we have in there.
The center was opened in October 2017 with the goal of teaching creation to students, faculty, and visitors in general. And we do that through the Bible and through science. Inside, you will see several ambiances: geology and paleontology, creation, catastrophism, and intelligent design. Please follow me to visit the Center for the Study of Nature. The Center for the Study of Nature has 6 spaces, ambiances. One is a small classroom for 25 people and a creation hall, geology, paleontology hall, intelligent design hall, storage room, and a lab. The first goal of the Center of the Study of Nature is to tell people the truth of creation as taught in the Bible. In the creation room, we can have up to 25 people, usually schools, students that come here, sit, and listen to our descriptions and explanations of creation. On this side of the room, we show the first 3 days of creation. The first day was light. God created light. The second day, God separated the water and formed the atmosphere. So we explain the properties of water and atmosphere. The third day, God separated the continents from the water and created plants. So in our description, we explain how those physical components, oceans and continents, help plants to grow and cover the earth. The whole of creation has 2 rooms. The larger room for the first 3 days of creation. The second room for the second part of creation. Please follow me to see it. In the second room of creation, we explain the sun and the moon that appear on the 4th day of creation. How the sun is important, that provides energy for life, and the moon protects us from meteorites and provides stability to the earth within the solar system. The 6th day of creation, where God created land, animals, and humanity, men and women. We, Seventh-day Adventists, have the Sabbath as one of our core doctrines in our Christian message. Our creation hall wouldn't be complete without an explanation about the Sabbath on the 7th day of creation. We are in the Geology and Paleontology hall, where we show evidence of the catastrophic past of the earth. We have 2 sections in this room. The geology section, where we explain the types of rocks. For example, igneous rocks, metamorphic rocks, and sedimentary rocks. Display cases, we have many rocks representing these 3 groups. We are in the paleontology section, and here we display lots of fossils. In this display, we show fossils of fish, mammals, reptiles, and birds. In this section, we show fossils of marine organisms like ammonites, sea stars. These 3 posters illustrate the 5 types of fossils that we commonly find in the rocks. In this large display, we see fossils that represent exceptional preservation. For example, shrimp, trilobites, mollusks, corals. We plan to develop these display cases with more specimens and also include on the back some posters like these illustrating and explaining different types of fossils. This is the larger room of the center. It's the room for intelligent design. Here we show people how the structure of the universe, its complexity and organization point out to a creator. We also show how the structure of the cell, its micro-components, complexity and organization requires a maker, an intelligent designer, whom we call God, the God of the Bible. For scientists, it's very important to have a lab. And the Center for Study of Nature has a geology and paleontology lab. In this lab, we bring in the samples that we collect during our research expeditions. This is the office and the storage room. Fieldwork in geology and paleontology, we collect many samples, rocks and fossils for further studies. For example, here we have the bones of a mastodon that we collected a few days ago. Along with the notes and the photographs that we collected, we have many samples. Most of them are actual bones. These bones will require further study and then write papers and present the results in scientific meetings. We hope that people visiting the Center for the Study of Nature will leave thinking about creation and how nature, from rocks and fossils to water, the atmosphere, the cell, human beings, the complexity in life and the universe, point out to an intelligent design, the intelligent designer that is taught in the Bible, our God, the Creator. And we thank the Faith and Science Council and the Geoscience Research Institute, as well as the Adventist University in Bolivia, for their generous contribution to make this center a reality.
So, Judith, we see that groups of students and other people regularly come to visit the center, Cooksonia. So, what are the things that impress them the most?
The people are impressed by the quality of the material shown there. Some of our posters were designed by professional graphic designers, with additional help from the other GRI scientists, were scientist advisors, and several people donate fossils. One person donates a good portion of this personal collection of fossils. And this project wouldn't be possible without the funds we received from the GRI and the Phi and Science Council. Also, people are impressed by the message we give. God is creator. We show that throughout the displays and guides tours. We make them think of the complexity on the university, the cellular and biomolecules, and point out to the intelligent designer. Many schools with their teachers and students come to visit the centers.
Schools? You mean Adventist schools or public schools as well?
Both. We have the entire class coming to SEO Center. In 9 months, we have over 1,000 people listening to the message of creation in guide tools and designs displayed in the center. Last week, we had 120 of public schools visited the center. Likely, thus the teacher will bring their students.
She called me last week saying, I had to ask her a question, say, I can't talk to you right now. I have 127 teachers from public schools. They all came together because the district director sent them mandatory to visit Cooksonia. They stopped the classes that day. No classes in the district that day. Science can make an impact in your institution. So, Ebert, tell me what other activities do you do in the center?
The center organizes lectures and seminary presentations and other courses for schools, for teachers, churches, and other audience.
Other audiences, thank you. I see that your center has a lab.
Yes, and remember that this was your own idea. Few Adventist universities have an active ongoing research program. Now, thanks to the Center for the Study Nature Cooksonia, the Adventist University in Bolivia is involved in several research projects.
That is very interesting. Tell me more about research projects there.
I did. But I think you are more qualified to explain that this year we started 2 lines of research in geology and paleontology in Bolivia, in 2 different places of the country, very distant from the university.
Where are those research projects?
A few weeks ago, we were working near the city of Tarija, where we discovered bones of the mastodons. We are planning to organize an expedition in October to excavate what seems to be accumulated skeletons of mastodon and other large animals. And Raul, you be your paleontologist.
Well, it's a pleasure. In fact, we came back that day, back from the field, with a box with those samples that you saw in the video. And we were very happy. And then at the hotel lobby, a man showed up from the government, the Office of Protection and Heritage. He wanted to see us. And I said, okay, what are you doing here? Well, I said, we are doing research. Oh, research. Oh, okay. And I showed him my notebook. With notes, descriptions about the bones, drawings, sample numbers, and photograph numbers. He was impressed. He said, oh, I see that you're doing research. And I thought, maybe you thought that we are stealing, and you know. No, we're not doing that. Here is the box with our samples. So I opened the box. He saw them wrapped up, and labeled, and with everything. And he said, you know, don't worry, he said. Tonight I'm going to write 2 letters for you. One is a letter of authorization to collect bones and do research. Second letter is for an authorization to carry these bones, these samples, to your university, so the police will not stop you and give you any problem. And I said, oh, Lord, you are with us, really, really. And then the day after, we visited the office of the director of Heritage, and he said, please come. We'll facilitate whatever you want to do here in research. We'll help you. We'll give you the authorizations. Please come. Please come and do research. Your university is welcome to come here. We've shown you one place because the day before they showed us, well, actually 3 or 4 places. That's only 1% of what we know. We are not telling anybody, but we'll show you those places if you come to the research here with the Adventist University of Bolivia. Isn't that wonderful? Amen. They deserve an applause. Well, Judith, studying fossils is my passion. You know that. Tell me about the second project.
Remember that a few years ago, the first time you come to Bolivia, we told you to visit the Toro Toro National Park. You saw several sites with hundreds of dinosaur footprints. Well, now are studying those two.
Yeah, we are studying dinosaur footprints. You saw an image earlier while Ronnie were explaining that. And this is important. It's an important project because why are footprints preserved anyway? When you walk along the beach, your footprints last a few minutes or a few hours. Why are footprints preserved on a rock surface? So we think that it has something to do with what happened in the flood. And that's the motive, the ultimate motive of our our research. I have two thoughts in my mind. We are next month in Paris at the International Congress of Paleontology. We're going to present a paper derived from their research in Bolivia about dinosaur footprints. Ever, tell me, what is research? Why is research so interesting?
Well,
for you,
Raul, I can tell you that besides the scientific,
there are other things that you do.
Interest, research and other activities of the center in collaboration with GRI are making an impact in the scientific community and the government of our country. There is a group of people that will be reached with the message of creation and salvation through rigorous study and research of science and scripture.
Indeed. Even the office of the vice president of the country asked us, they want to visit Cooksonia. That's remarkable. Judith, you are talking to a group of scholars here. Most of them are either theologians, pastors, or administrators. Let me tell you, usually they don't think of geology or paleontology and fossils as a way to do outreach or preach the message of salvation.
We used to think that too. Until the Geoscience Research Institute came to our campus in 2015 and held our creation conference. No? Then we began to have a different vision. We realized with some investment and the scientific supervision of the GRI, we could do something great.
And I tell you that she was the soul of the whole initiative, okay? She was.
You and worked hand in hand.
We worked together, yes. We worked together in developing this center. And Eber, what would you recommend to this audience to do when they go back to their institutions?
Adventist institutions tend to place their interest and their money in theology, nursing, education, computing, etc. Except in North America, most teachers and administrators don't think that the geology, biology, or paleontology can be effective to extend our message of creation and salvation. But our experience in the Bolivia Adventist University is that those fields are actually very effective in our effort to reach out not only to our own Christian community, but other communities that may only be reached through science. In addition to that, because of the scientific work we are doing, we are growing reputation of our university because we are research and serious academic work. Well, the government is noticing.
As we said,
It's very good for us.
Yeah, they, Judith and I were called into the office of the Vice Minister for Education and asked us, could you Adventist scientists could come and train our geologists? These are secular geologists. And I said, I can do that, but I want you to know this. If I do that, I will do it from a biblical Christian perspective. And she said to me, I like that. Amen. Okay, pray for us, please. Is there anything you want to add?
I just need to say a few words. We are so grateful in Bolivia Adventist University to the GRI, Geoscience Research Institute, and the Fight and Science Council, because the support, financial support to open this center. And we are so grateful and thankful for you, for Dr. Gibson, for the leaders of the GRI.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for your attention.
For those of you who may be interested in establishing a resource center on your campus, most of them are much more modest than this, and we'll be happy to work with you on doing that. And thank you for your attention. Thank you, Raul and the others. I am privileged to be a part of the best team Geoscience has ever had.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Isn't it exciting to see how in God's providence doors are opening at levels where we would have never thought about? So if you have a chance to take advantage and foster and support the work of the GRI in your sphere of influence, do it. It will be a blessing to the church, and use their resources. It's a great team there, and it's located at Loma Linda University. I'd like to ask Lisa to the platform. Oh, she is there already, see? Lisa Beardsley Hardy, she is originally from Finland, but works at the General Conference and is the director for the Department of Education, and she will share some interesting things from her side.
Thank you so much. I'd like to invite Dr. Teresa Reeve and Jerry Page, thank you, to join me. Very good. This is to provide you with an overview of the revision of the International Handbook, the Handbook of SDA Ministerial and Theological Education. It was a process that took place over about a year and a half, July 2015 to October of 2016. If you have your iPhone, you can go to the website Adventistaccreditingassociation.org, go to the resources link, and you can see the handbook there in English. It has been translated now to Portuguese, French, and Spanish is being copy edited, and we'll be uploading those in the other languages very soon. But it is there in English already now. And Jerry, you're going to tell us just briefly about the purpose of the handbook revision.
Yes, it's a real joy to work with Lisa. She's did a great job of driving this process of revision. And I believe, is that the introduction? There's the purpose. Yeah, okay, got it, okay. So she asked me to read several paragraphs at the beginning here. It has been 15 years since the last edition of this handbook was written. That's one reason for doing it. During the intervening time, many changes took place. Seventh-day Adventist Church has grown, especially in Africa, South America, and Inter-America, where 70% of the membership is now found. New colleges, universities, seminaries, and theological schools have been founded. The practice of ministry and teaching has changed because of contemporary issues and needs. There are new and increasing pressures from external accrediting bodies, professional organizations, and governments that require careful responses from church-affiliated institutions. There is internal drift that sometimes happens within denominational institutions to conform to the secular philosophies, values, and practices of public education. In addition, 15 years of experience with the previous policies and practices of IBMTE have shown where improvements could be made. So at the same time, the original purposes for the IBMTE are still needed. And these are to A, foster a dynamic theological unity in the world church, sharpen the focus on Seventh-day Adventist message and mission, support the spiritual and professional development of faculty involved in ministerial programs. D, promote professional excellence in ministerial training and practice. E, nurture strong collaboration between church leaders, educational institutions, and faculty engaged in the training of ministry, the practitioners. Also F, energize the spiritual life of Seventh-day Adventist educational institutions through committed faculty. The church will not remain unified in message and mission if it does not intentionally take steps to keep itself together, while at the same time allowing flexibility to deal with needs and opportunities in the diverse world in which it exists. Perhaps one of the most important ways it can achieve this goal is to make sure that it prepares its spiritual leaders, pastors, ministry, theology, and religion teachers can't get mine to move up now here. Okay. Pastors, ministry, theology, and religion teachers, chaplains, and administrators, according to a carefully considered and mutually agreed upon plan. Through men and women educated in this way, the membership of the entire church is instructed, led to make commitments to God, and guided in their spiritual development. This revision of the handbook was overtaken, thank you, with representatives, let's see. This revision of the handbook was overseen by a task force with representatives from each division of the General Conference, a total of about 30 people. In order to obtain broad input, 4 task force sessions were held from 2015 and 16 in different parts of the world. Andrews University in North America, IS in the Philippines, Avondale College in Australia, and the Adventist University of Africa in Kenya. In each of these places, local leaders, teachers, and pastors were invited to a forum where they could express themselves on various topics in light of ministry realities in their territories. An additional forum was held in Atlanta, Georgia, to hear the concerns of religion and theology professors gathered to attend their annual professional meetings. The drafts were posted online for further comments and finally voted by the IBMTE and Annual Council of General Conference Executive Committee. Lisa, if I understand, you want me to go to the names at this point? Yeah, so we'll just read some of those names to you. Hope I can pronounce them. Maybe you ought to pronounce them. Yeah, why don't you do that? Here's the list of the different ones that were.
So now I'd like to ask those that were members of the IBMTE task force, would you please stand? Task force members, and I'm going to read them, but we have quite a few of those that were either part of the task force, and Davide, you were part of that, so you need to stand as well. And okay, now look around and you can see who some of those members are. Stay standing so you see who was part of it. Now I'd like to add to those members of the members that participated in at least one of the sessions. So if you were part of one of the sessions, please stand. Yes, Wendy, good, and some of the others here, good. Thank you. And now I'd like to add those that are members of the IBMTE who were involved in reviewing the handbook or approving the handbook. If you would also stand, add that. Okay, so now if you look around, you'll see we have pretty good representation right here in this room of those who are involved in that. Thank you so much for your contribution to that. There were the following members of the GC, or the White Estate. The chair was Benjamin Schoen, the past chair of IBMTE, Jerry Page, who is the GC Ministerial Association head, as well as the associate secretary for the IBMTE, myself as director of education and the secretary to the IBMTE, Mario Ceballos, who is head of chaplaincy at the GC, Willie Hux, who then was at the Ministerial Association, and a number of names you see they're not in their current positions. Now they're in other positions. Dr. Landless in Health Ministries and Alberto Tem in the White Estate. There were 5 representatives from seminaries with graduate theological education, SDA Theological Seminary at Andrews, Dr. Moscala, AUA, Dr. Nualma, Latin American SDA Theological Seminary, at that time, Renaldo Siqueira, Inter-American Adventist Theological Seminary, Ephraim Velasquez, and then IS, at that time it was Richard Sabwin. In addition, there were 10 representatives from divisions, ministerial department, or chaplaincy, or evangelism, or education. And you see all of those names there. Dr. Sinaga became ill, he was not involved, but the rest were Bruno Rosso, Victor Kozakov, Ivan Williams, Kwon Jong Heng, Graham Humble, Passmore Malambo, Andrew Mutera, and Daniel Zhao. And this one was an important one, what we should do about ministerial training for the whole region of China, or the unorganized territory. Then there were 2 presidents, 2 education directors who had been college presidents, Dr. Flores and Dr. Magyaroshi, and 6 undergraduate theology teachers, Chong Dimpui Schaefer, Victoria Aja at Babcock, the previous one was Spicer, Larry Lichtenwalter representing MENA, Adolfo Suarez then representing UNASP, Auliki Nahkola representing Newbold College, TED, Miguel Luna then representing SSD, and the coordinator of all of this, bringing that information into the handbook, was Teresa Reeve, and she's going to tell a little bit about where we started from. The first session was held at Andrews University and Battle Creek, and we heard a wonderful, touching story about J.N. Andrews. There's a sculpture of him sitting on that traveling trunk with his son Charles and his daughter Mary, and a space left on that trunk for Angeline. So Dr. Reeve, briefly tell us how we first started. Oh, here is the members of the task force that met at that first session, representing 13 divisions in MENA.
So the 2 areas where I felt like I was able to contribute a bit was pulling together all the decisions that the committee made into a handbook that would be readable and helpful. And then the other thing that I was excited about was thinking about the roles that a pastor needs to fulfill today, and then working that into, okay, what are the outcomes that we need to produce in our schools to prepare pastors? So that was the other thing where I felt like I could be a useful part. And so I was excited about where we started. We started by saying, okay, in the 21st century, what does a pastor need to look like? What qualities do they need to have? So that was the very beginning of everything we did, is where are we going with all of this? We identified the core qualities, or the essential qualities of a pastor, and broke it down into 3 areas. Personal qualities, we identified 5 of them, starting with conversion, Adventist identity, love for people, and so on. Then we looked at knowledge and commitments, and we thought those had to belong together. And we had 5 of those, including knowledge of who God is, and commitment, fundamental commitment to God, knowledge of His Word, and so on. And then we looked at skills. We found 5 basic skills that described what a pastor would need around the world in the 21st century. And it's challenging, of course, because we're thinking about small towns in villages in Africa, New York City, Bangkok, and what are the commonalities of what a pastor needs? So that's where we started, and then we built from there into, okay, this is what they need. What is the sequence that they need to go through to get there? Then we looked at the entrance requirements. People who are wanting or thinking that they should be a pastor, what are the requirements at the basic level to even start into that pathway? We looked at then the basic outcomes. We took these 3 categories, the 5 qualities in each of those categories, and we said, we don't want to get too specific about what a pastor needs to look at, because all of these different needs in the different parts of the world, we can't do specifics, but we tried to give a few general areas that a pastor would need in the areas of personal quality, knowledge and commitments, and skills. And that's what you'll find in the outcomes chapter. And we also had a reaffirmation of the importance of internship for preparing pastors, and a brand new chapter on that, a brand new chapter on continuing education to keep a pastor fresh and ready to face the challenges. So I'm excited about what we were able to do in that area to just help the different schools and areas of the world. All of us work together to make the best pastors we can for the church.
Thank you. Now I'll give you an overview of what happened during these sessions. We decided deliberately to schedule over a Sabbath. We were not just going to do head work. We wanted to be a community of faith, worshiping together, being vulnerable. And so we started at Battle Creek, having our own worship there in that historic meeting house. We sang the songs of the pioneers with Jim Nix. We celebrated communion together. We reflected on the roots of Adventist mission, where we started, why we started, what our vision was for that. We had a Sabbath picnic in the White's backyard. We visited the sanitarium. We had Sabbath Vespers and sunset at Lake Michigan. At each site, we were determined to spend a Sabbath immersed in the worship experience and to expose ourselves to the challenges and opportunities of worship around the world, starting with the history. The next session was at IS in Ceylon, and there you see the group that was participating. But at each session, we had an open forum where students, pastors, anybody could come and respond to the work that we were doing and tell them what their views are about what needed to be done. This is where we started work on chapter 12 that may concern some of you as religion teachers. And there was a lot of debate and discussion. We didn't get very far in that first session, and we continued to work on that during session 3 and finally session 4. But the basic concept that we laid out there was that in chapter 12, what are the qualities of somebody who prepares a pastor? And we agreed that that the handbook should work through the institution's own processes and board, which would recommend faculty for denominational endorsement by the Division Board of Ministerial and Theological Education and the International Board of Ministerial and Theological Education based on the faculty members' own agreement to support in their teaching of students the following. First, the fundamental beliefs of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the Methods of Bible Study document, which is a voted document of the church, the 2 codes of ethics, a pastoral code of ethics. If a person's ordained, they've already agreed to that, but many religion teachers are not ordained, and a code of educator ethics, which generally relates to being responsible in the use of power, whether in pastoral context, to being prepared as a teacher, grading fairly, and finally an academic freedom and accountability document, which is a voted document of the church. That was the basic outline. Then we visited various ministries, Philippine Frontline Mission. These are people that hike 2 days into the interior to work with unreached people. We visited the Adventist University of the Philippines and talked about ministry to young people on large campuses. We met with Dr. Gayoba, who's here someplace. I saw him earlier. And he shared with us about the outreach activities of the Adventist University of the Philippines, very active outreach activities. We went into the prison there, Dasmariñas prison, and observed an outreach of IS, working with prisoners, and the role of prison chaplaincy. And there you see Dr. Velasquez, I think even making an altar call there in the prison. We visited the Thousand Missionary Movement of these short-term lay training programs. What is the relationship of formal ministerial training to that? And we visited the division offices there. But we did have to stop and have a durian championship. We're in the land of durian, and I want you to look there at Dr. Ivan Williams, who's smiling there in the background, and I think also, is it Pasmar Mulambo's smiling there. And the others, too, are just sniffing it to see what is going to be coming up. Now, have a look at Dr. Ivan Williams after he has his first bite. Where is Dr. Williams? There, okay. And now I don't know if you've seen this picture. Okay, this is the first bite. The championship is underway as we begin to, here we are, the race is on. We have various groups now. We have some groups falling out very early here. Dr. Dinpui did not make it very far. And it looks like winners determined on the number of durian seeds that were left. The winners, IS Theological Seminary 6, Andrews University SDA Theological Seminary 13, and the White Estate at 11. Well, Dr. Sabwing quietly said to me, well, I was the host, so he restrained himself. Third session was at Avondale College of Higher Education, and in this session, we addressed the whole part of approval of new programs and the relationship of the church boards, IBMTE, to the institution boards. And this was a vigorous session as well. We also had our field trip there to the Sydney Adventist Hospital and focused on healthcare chaplaincy. And that quarter, Dr. Tasker was the author of the Sabbath School lesson. So we had Dr. Tasker with us teaching the Sabbath School lesson. That was a wonderful experience for us. We considered the multicultural challenge of ministry in the South Pacific Division, visited their museum, visited Warunga Church. We didn't always all go to the same places. We listened to one another throughout these sessions, walked together, ate together, talked together, prayed together. The fourth session was held at the Adventist University of Africa, Nairobi, Kenya. And this was the session where we had to bring all of that together, hosted by Drs. Baker there. And here is a picture of an open forum. And this was an interesting open forum. This was an open forum where pastors came, and a couple of pastors said, we who were adjunct teachers, because endorsement relates to anybody who teaches at least half-time, they said, we want endorsement because we are so often misunderstood in the field if we quote other authors than only Ellen White. And so they felt that affirmation of the church would be an important part of their mission and their ministry. We see Dr. Reeve and Dr. Schoen working hard as we're nearing the end of this process. In this session, we also talked about the IBMTE approval of new programs that was started at Avondale, the relationship to AAA and accreditation of institutions. There's a green accreditation manual there. And we did our work through all sessions, including distance education as well. This was just one sample here where you see two of our members had to join us by distance, Dr. Velasquez and Dr. Ceballos and Dr. Simmons, who were in the middle of the night sometimes. Dr. Reeve one night, through the night, stayed up to be able to work with us. Dr. Handysides, former Health Ministries, here's some of our members. This was a challenging session because we had limited time and we still had some hard issues to wrestle with and deal with, and trying to work that into the handbook, the final draft of the handbook. This was also the session in which the transition was made to the new board of the International Board of Ministerial and Theological Education, new board chair, and that's Jeffrey Mbwana there. We visited churches again, rural churches. We were all divided up going to different churches. Church there on their tent. Dr. Reeve even had a cute little lap visitor during one of the sessions, so we really got to have contact and see how the challenges of ministry differ around the world and ensure that our criteria would be useful. Dr. Hux here, Ed Zinke, Dr. Kent, Dr. Tim, here we got the South American contingency. And then we ended with a Sabbath hike in the Nong Hills. This is Africa, rural, young, but this next picture shows the challenges of Africa as well, which is very modern technology, telecommunication towers, harnessing of green energy. This is the span of challenges that we are trying to prepare ministers to work in, not only in Africa, but around the world. Some even made it to the top of the Nong Hills, and I've got a little video clip here, about 20 seconds. So can my audio gentleman?
We made it! We did it! We have made it! 3 amigos. Africa, Australia, Europe. Yahoo! Long Hills!
We made it. 3 amigos, we made it. That's what they were saying. And after a 1.5-year process, this group working very hard around the continent finally did made, and they were able to hand over that work to the International Board of Ministerial Theological Education. During the final months, we did have other consultations. We met with 39, we already mentioned this annual meeting of ASRS and ATS in Georgia. We met with the ECD, SID, and WAD administration and ministerial and educational representatives, met with SAD, college and university presidents in Galapagos. We met with SDA Theological Seminary faculty. Separately, the EUD, college and university presidents, and the EUD, Board of Ministerial and Theological Education. NAD, college and university presidents, the NAD BMTE, at which time we primarily talked about Chapter 12. We also heard from division and union administrators, educational administrators, and teachers in response to our call for public comment. Most of that comment was from NAD relating to Chapter 12. And finally, there was a consultation in Africa where all of the presidents or deans of the universities in Africa came together and evaluated their curriculum to the new IBMTE handbook. And that was a wonderful, wonderful set of meetings hosted by Dr. Nwama there at AUA. I hope other divisions would do that, come together and evaluate how do we measure up compared to the IBMTE handbook. So that's an overview of the process, and I still have 5 minutes, so I would be glad to take any comment or question that you might have. Okay, a lot of the academics were interested in the endorsement piece. So if there's not a question, is Dr. Moskala someplace here? I saw him. Okay, yes, if you would comment on what you at the seminary did to address the endorsement, how you are processing endorsement of faculty, and hopefully it'll take less than 5 minutes, and then there may be some other comment or question. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the good question. How we were dealing with the endorsement? First of all, we need to create it. And I know that there was a big debate in that committee how to do it. And we had the privilege to be part of that committee, so we knew the debate. So I presented it to the faculty. And when we were discussing it, at the end, it was very clear that we would like to create our own document, which will be how we in the seminary are actually hiring new professor or new teacher in theology. And in this way, it will be not something which is imposed on us, but we are creating it from within us. So we were creating the document where all these important things which IBMTE had in mind should be there. So we put there 28 fundamental beliefs, these 2 ethical documents, also document about religious liberty or academic liberty. And so at the end, what we are doing in the seminary, we put actually in paper. So it was not something new, something which we were imposing as a new legislation for the professors, because in the seminary we have the very rigorous process of hiring professors. By the regular process is that we have the search committee, but in the search committee are not only people from the seminary, from the department, from outside department, from the university representative, but also from the North American division representative, and also from the general conference. So we have all these entities together, but then we didn't want to put something that will be different, that should be as part of the world church. So at the end, we put it like 5 or 6 points, but they are actually more, I don't want to say rigorous, but there are things which are demanded more on this seminary faculty than only these 4 or 5 documents. And we put it in as the preamble, as the first point, I think, which is the very important for us in the seminary, that the Bible is for us the source of all authority in teaching or practice and whatever we do. And then we went to the 28 fundamental beliefs and all the rest. So it is not a process which was like outside put on us, but we legalized or put in writing what we are actually doing. And in this way, all faculty had no problem to really put their signature into it. And we are not only requiring it for the faculty, but also for the new faculty. And we are using it in such a way that when we have discussion to hire new faculty, we already are including this discussion that the new faculty member, potential faculty member, will be signing it. So I think it's very simple, very straightforward. It's a product of the faculty of seminary. So in this way, they own it, and we are happy to implement it. Okay.
Thank you very much for that interesting presentation. They even had a durian eating contest, you know? And if I may add a little footnote to that, yes, there are some heavenly fruits who have delightful taste, and then there are some other fruits who have delightful taste and heavenly smell. Not all fruits are equal. I would like to invite Dr. Eckhard Müller to the platform, but before he starts, I think we need to do something else. You have faithfully and patiently and attentively sat here for quite a while. I think we need a little exercise, maybe a breath of fresh air, maybe some movement, and I've asked Dr. Billy Biaggi to come here to help us in that exercise. Is he around? Yes, he is an experienced man, so just follow his instructions for just 1-2 minutes, really, and then we'll continue in the program.
So let's stand all. If Dr. Peter Lannes is here, he will say it's very bad to spend more than 1 hour sitting down. So we have 1.5 already. Okay, let's put our arms in the front and in the back and in the side. And now, like this, and pressing, press, and press, and move your necks all around, the other side. And if you have space, lift like this. Very good. Marching. Some are not marching. Now, let's see like this. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Okay, now breathe deeply. 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 Now move like this. The other side, the other side, the other side. And let's breathe again, deeply. Again. God bless you.
Okay, we will move to the next part of the program, and I would ask my other helpers and colleagues to come forward, which is Eugene Zaitsev. Is Eugene here and can sit here? Yeah, the two of you, and then I need Bana to come, and I think Adolfo Suarez. Okay, so that we can proceed quickly. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We are talking about the Biblical Research Committees, okay? Not the Biblical Research Institute, but they belong together, at least we believe that, yeah? So we have the Biblical Research Institute, which is an institute located at the General Conference, and we have biblical research committees in the divisions. So, a little bit about the history. Some committees exist since decades, because the church has encouraged us to have such committees long time ago. There are two committees which I think last at least 30 years, maybe longer. Others came alive later. So there were several attempts, again in 2000, early 2000, to ask divisions to install such biblical research committees. We had basically in each division a biblical research committee when we discussed the ordination debate, because the divisions were asked to look into the issue of ordination. But as soon as the ordination issue was voted, some committees collapsed again. Yeah. Now I can tell you, I'm glad to report that we have now about 10 working biblical research committees. So we have reached almost all the divisions, which is very good. Why have a biblical research committee? I have here 4 major points, and I will elaborate on them a little bit. So first of all, I would say to support the World Church. Second, to support the work of the respective division. Third, to support the work of the Biblical Research Institute. And number 3, to support the biblical scholars, systematicians, ethicists, applied theologians, and missiologists. I hope I have not forgotten anyone. Good, we go to the first point, which is support for the worldwide SDA Church. So, in other words, these biblical research committees, also, although they are located in the divisions, at the end help the World Church. In conjunction with the BRI, they are supposed to strengthen the unity of the church, and they do that. They contribute to the fulfillment of its mission. So, while we discuss theology, theology is never exempt from mission. Yeah. By the way, I mentioned earlier that we have that we had this book on creation in the Old Testament, and that book was distributed among about 5,000 scholars, non-Adventist scholars. We plan to do the same thing also with the book on the New Testament. So, in other words, we keep also in mind what we do theologically may help people who are on a similar level. Okay, next point. Find better ways, in conjunction with BRI, find better ways to understand and communicate biblical teachings and theological, ethical concepts. There's always more to learn, and the more you know, the more you know that you don't know. Yeah? This is the point, yeah? Only those think they know everything who are ignorant. There is so much to explore. My mother asked me once, what do you still do? Everything is clear. I said, no, by far not. I mean, our fundamental beliefs have been ironed out, fine. But there are so many other things which we have to fine-tune. And find better ways to understand and communicate the meaning of biblical passages. So both theology, ethics, and biblical passages. The second point, why do we have biblical research committees? To support the work of the respective division. So, in other words, these committees are asked to address theological and doctrinal issues and challenges that are faced by the division, and then the unions of that division and the conferences. Not all issues have to come to the Biblical Research Institute. Some can be dealt with locally, and sometimes even better, because you live in the respective culture. Provide resource materials for divisions and unions. Work on own projects relevant to the divisions, which may also be shared with the world field through BRI. So in other words, what these committees do, they receive requests from the field. They work on some own projects that they think are necessary, where we have to improve, or which we have not tackled. You will hear a little bit later from these gentlemen who are assistant directors with these are the directors of the Biblical Research Committees. I should not confuse that with the dictionary. Some of them are also responsible for the dictionary at the same time. Okay, so this is important. So you respond to that, but you have your own projects. There are some things that come from BRI, requests also from BRI, and such as the dictionary, and these biblical research committees are also being asked to work with that, but they should have also their own projects that they pursue. Evaluate material and theological views for division, union, and conferences that can be handled locally and do not need to come to the BRI. Respond to inquiries by the divisions, unions, conferences, pastors, and non-SDA audiences, and, if necessary, to individuals if they do not need to come to BRI. Now here I show you just something. This happened in oh, I have not advanced it. Thank you. Yeah, there are always these many things. I need 3 arms, actually, to advance my computer. Okay, now what you see here, I have not shown the document, but I think that was one of the efforts to say something on politics, and I like that very much. It was an SAD, so this is Southern Indian Ocean Division, and they worked on a document which is very well crafted on how Adventists should relate to politics. So they felt that was necessary for their field. They had more and more church members who were going into politics, and they felt we have to speak about that. And we showed that then also in another division, NSD actually, who drafted a similar document. Now here another example, and we will hear about that maybe more. This happened in the, at that time, Euro-Africa division, now called Indo-European division. They felt that something on marriage should happen. It was necessary to discuss issues on marriage, and they published in French and German because they had, apart from Malta, I think the division has no English-speaking field. In the meantime, the division has decided to use anyway English as language, but so this is published in German and in French, books on marriage. And they gave us the permission to use chapters from that and develop then the BRI book on marriage that I showed you later. So we are indebted to the division. And see, this is what we want to happen, this collaboration. Why have biblical research committees? The support of the work of the Biblical Institute. These committees are asked always to work with the Biblical Research Institute. They certainly represent the divisions, and they are installed by the divisions, but they are asked to work together with the Institute. We are not a department, so we are not on the different levels of the church, but we have these committees. Respond to inquiries by divisions, union conferences, pastors, and so on. This is the same thing. Evaluate material for theological correctness and so on. Support BRI projects. And one of the major projects that we are momentarily doing together is this dictionary project. Yeah, I have mentioned that before, so we're working on a dictionary, and I guess quite a number of you may already be authors. Yeah? So we have allowed, and we felt it was necessary and good to involve as many scholars as possible. And so in the divisions, in these biblical research committees, we have assistant editors who distribute material, receive material from the authors. This material is being evaluated, sent back to the author, comes back a second time mostly, and then it is being evaluated by the assistant editor. Finally, it comes to the BRI, and it goes through 2 more steps for evaluation. So this is our process. And we are very happy that we have 10 divisions now that are involved in that, because alone this is an impossible project, as you can imagine. So the last point was support biblical scholars, systematicians, ethicists, pastors, and so on. So provide possibilities for serious theological discussion. Scholars need sometimes to sit together and discuss some issues. Yeah, it doesn't not always be something which is a deviant view, but it is necessary. Is this the right one? It is important that we sit together and discuss issues, exchange ideas, and see better how to express biblical truth. And that has to happen within the division. There should be interaction of theologians. There should also be interaction between theologians and administrators, and therefore the administrators are ex officio members of the Biblical Research Committee, and in dialogue with the World Church. So by doing that, we just hope that we as a church stay together more than maybe in the past, theologically. Yeah? Now there will be details in which we may disagree or have different views, especially when it comes to some parts maybe of prophecy or so, but in the major points, we want to go one way, and if possible, certainly also in the details. I think in addition to that, it's important to create fellowship. Scholars and theologians tend to work by themselves. You need a network, you need friends. You have to check your ideas. We have done that oftentimes in BRI. One wrote a paper and gave it to the colleagues and said, read this paper, let me know if it needs to be approved, or if you have an official statement, it has to be looked over by others. And what happens here also in these BRCs, as it happens in BRICOM, this is the larger committee of BRI, is that you have an interdisciplinary experience. This is something you oftentimes don't get in your university settings. Here you have all the people of the different disciplines and hear them talk to different subjects. Organize division-wide Bible conferences for pastors in conjunction with the Ministerial Association. So that was done by a number of divisions over the years. Address issues of faith and science in conjunction with the Faith and Science Council of the General Conference. Consider providing material for non-SDA scholars, theologians, and the general public as an outreach method. I think, Bana, EUD has also shared the publications that you issued with libraries and all kinds of things. Yeah. So we are not working just for ourselves. Use BRI, BRC, and non-BRC members as resource people and authors. So when we work on the dictionary, it's not only that the members of BRC can be authors, but basically all of you can be authors. Okay, and I'm coming almost to a conclusion, and then you will hear some reports of the divisions. Not all divisions, but a few. The members of BRC, its term of BRC's terms of reference and the chairperson secretary will be determined by the division. It is recommended that the group be between 12 and 20 persons, not too big, not too small, so that you have a good group. Typically, BRCs meet twice a year on 2 days. And about the composition, so that you can see what is being expected. Division officers are members ex officio. The ministerial secretary should be member, if possible, the director of the education department, religion professors from the colleges and universities of the division, Ellen White, research center director, then BRI members, are also in the division BRCs members, and 2 representatives from other divisions, if that is possible. So this is what I had to tell you, and we will move on, and will now hear from different colleagues. I just hope that this... The first one will be Eugene Zaitsev. I will see if my computer here works or does not work. I think it is frozen. No, it is working. Okay. So Eugene Zaitsev comes from ESD, and he will give us a few minutes, a short report about what happens with the BRC in ESD. And then we go on, and I will not announce that, we go just from one to the other.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Gerhard. I will share in brief with some information regarding the activity of Biblical Research Committee of Eurasia Division. Our committee was established in 2009, and since then we have met twice a year. Usually it is during the semi-annual and annual meetings of Eurasia Division. The mission of our committee is keeping the doctrinal and organizational unity of the Church for the more effective fulfillment of your mission to the people on the territory of Eurasia Division. Our activity, first, preparation materials on the most crucial doctrinal and theological topics for publication, and here you see the list of the most discussive issues on our territory: divine and human nature of Christ, divinity and personality of the Holy Spirit, Trinity issue, etc. Here you see the series of books. We call this series In Defense of Biblical Truth, and each book is dealing with some crucial doctrinal issue. Number 9, which is going to be published soon, will be dedicated to hermeneutics. Some books have been published during last years. Here you see the book on theology of the Holy Spirit. This book is titled There is No Future Without the Past, is dedicated to the history of doctrinal and organizational establishment and development of our church. In our denominational magazine, Adventistский Вестник, that means Advent Herald, we have a special section, puzzling text of the Bible, and our theologians regularly write articles for that section. Here you see the Russian version of Reflections. Other activities, we have theological expertise. We make theological expertise of different materials, books, study materials for different groups, radio programs and Hope Channel programs, and new Seventh-day Adventist hymnal in Russian. Organizing Bible conferences in each union and union mission. Here you see some pictures of those conferences in different part of our division. Last year we organized a study tour for our teachers and from educational institutions through Europe due to the 500 years of Reformation. We participate in writing articles for International Bible Theological Dictionaries, and theologians from 2 main educational institutions, Zaoksky Adventist University and Ukrainian Center of Higher Education, actively involved in that project. Prepares answers to the questions from pastors and administrators, holding seminars in local churches and conferences, recording audio and video seminars. And we are so thankful to the ministry of Pastor Clinton, who is a member of BRI, and actually he is a member of our committee. He is very supportive and helpful. And in the end, I would like to give thanks to the administration of Eurasia Division. They're very supportive for BRI. Biblical Research Committee activity. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to share to you the report from Southern Asia Pacific Division Biblical Research Committee. First, we would like to inform you that ECCD is located in the country of the Philippines, and it covers 14 countries with 9 unions and 2 attached field missions. We have a membership of 1.5 million Seventh-day Adventist church members, and then we are working with 1.2 billion, and we are located in the 1040 windows. So our challenge is how to reach the Muslims, the Hindus, the Buddhists, and also the non-religious groups. So in answer to this, this year for Southern Asia Pacific Division is tagged as the year of evangelism. That's why we have SSD for Christ. And of course, SSD is not just an entity, but we call it seeking, saving, and discipling. And to reinforce the TMI program of the General Conference, we designed a slogan which is each one, reach one. And of course, our mission framework is our mission is to reach the world in our territory. And the manner is total member involvement. The method is Christ method. The means is through small groups in the different churches. And then the motivating and mobilizing power is, of course, the power of the Holy Spirit. We have provided them with a disciple-making timeline so that we will be able to address the challenge that we have in terms of mission. Now, we have a very important challenge there when it comes to doctrine. We have lunar Sabbath, country living, Trinity, divinity of the Holy Spirit, divinity of Christ, prophecy, interpretation. And because of this, the SSD Biblical Research Committee has really helped in our challenges right there. So here are the members of the Biblical Research Committee. I don't need to mention. And then the committee meets twice a year, one in SSD office, and then one in different unions, missions, and institutions. So we are choosing union or missions that have doctrinal challenges. The goals and activities that we have, of course, our first priority is to finish the main project, which is the SDA Bible Dictionary. We are given letters, okay, to finish, and we are working hard on that, and we are very grateful of the support of the of IAS to help us have many entries for this SDA Bible Dictionary. And then also we provide resources to our pastors and leaders. You know, our concern right there in Southern Asia Pacific Division is we have a lot of good materials in relation to doctrine. But the problem is some of these materials are not understood by our pastors. So the SSD BRC is trying to help produce these materials, but by translating them into their own dialects. And then we also would like to produce contextual resources because, yes, we have good resources from the West, but sometimes there are situations in which these doctrinal confusions or misinterpretations can be addressed when we go into the context. Of course, these are the doctrinal assist unions, missions, and institutions. I already mentioned about the doctrinal issues that they are facing today. And then, as a preventive measure, we have in our division 13 colleges and university that offers theological education. And 6 of these colleges are in the Philippines. So as a preventive measure on how we are going to prepare them with these doctrinal issues, we are visiting these Adventist colleges offering theological programs. So we have started already offering, visiting Northern Luzon Adventist College, Naga View Adventist Academy, College, I should say, and then also Central Philippine Adventist College. So we gather the pastors, we gather the students, and help them deal on their theological issues. And then we also have some problems in the missions, and we schedule a visit for them. That's why last April we visited Davao Mission because we have this problem of lunar Sabbath. So we invited the BRC members to go there to share lecture about the issues that they have. And then we also visited the Myanmar Union Mission, the seminary there. We also gathered the pastors and helped them. We have pastors also from Central Philippine Union Conference and also South Philippine Union Conference. And of course, we keep on collecting issues, the needs that they have when it comes to the doctrinal problems, issues that they have. And we incorporate that in the Bible conferences that we are conducting. Last year, we were able to conduct 3 Bible conferences in the Philippines. And this coming year, the month of August, we also have 3 Bible conferences that will be conducted right there. So these are the pictures of the Bible conferences that we had conducted in the Philippines. And then we encourage local pastors and theologians to write books, monographs, articles, and etc. In fact, we created also the research committee document for review. So we have a lot of challenges there, and thank you very much for your prayers.
Thank you very much. Now we hear South American Division.
Good afternoon. In our division, South American Division, the BRC was organized in 2012 and has had its first meeting on November under the leadership of Dr. Reinaldo Siqueira that is here. Thank you, Dr. Reinaldo. Our meetings take place at the division office in Brasilia, Brazil. Usually we have 2 days of a meeting with at least 24 theology professors from our 8 seminaries around the division. Our procedure is very simple, very practice. We have the presentation of 8 to 10 papers on a previously chosen topic. These papers are evaluated by the members, and these topics are chosen in dialogue with the administration of our division and has the purpose of collaborating with the needs of the church. In 2016, our topic was Bible and culture. Last year, our topic was discipleship. In this year, our topic will be justification by faith. From 2016, we are publishing in book all our presentations, and I have with me the book of 2016 called Bible in Culture, Basis and Impacts to the Local Church. It's a book of around 200 pages. In connection with the BRC, we have the Biblical Theological Society, and we have meeting every 2 years in the same date and place of our Biblical Theological Symposium. For our Biblical Society, we invite all our division theology professors, and right now we are at least 170 professors. In 2015, the meeting was at UNAS, Brazil. In 2017, the meeting was in Argentina, where we had 93 participants with 25 presentations, 25 papers. As a result of the Biblical Theological Society, right now, 2 books are currently being planned or prepared about New Testament and about systematic theology. other activities. We are collaborating with the BRI. Currently, we are collaborating with the Theological Dictionary, which is under the responsibility of Dr. Dornelis, that is here. Thank you, Dr. Dornelis. We are collaborating with GC in the preparation of the Adventist Encyclopedia. And for this work, we have the direct collaboration of four professors. Dr. Daniel Planck is here. Dr. Renato Stencil, that is right there. Dr. Gluder Quispe, and Dr. Carlos Flavio Teixeira. Thank you for your collaboration. And we are preparing a book telling the history about the theological education in our division. Will be a book with at least 500 or 600 pages. For this book, we have the direct collaboration of Dr. Alberto Tin. Where is Dr. Alberto Tin? Thank you, Dr. Alberto Tin, for your strong collaboration. So all this information shows that the BRC in our division works as a support for the church activities in our territory. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now SPD, one of the oldest BRCs.
I want to give you a brief overview of what happens in the Biblical Research Committee in the South Pacific Division. We're not able to cover everything, but our membership is 25 members. We have the division president, secretary, the field secretary, our 4 union presidents, our Ellen White Research Centre director, some conference presidents, of course, majorly our theologians from the institutions, and some from the field, some ministry practitioners. We have invited some from the Southern Asia Pacific Division, 1 administrator and 1 scholar, and we have up to 2 people from the GC Biblical Research Institute. And we want to thank you, Eckhart, for coming down our way on a regular basis to be with us. It has been a real boon to our committee to have you with us. We have clear terms of reference, and we meet twice a year. The first part of the year we meet for half a day, and later in the year we meet for a day and a half to peer review papers and chapters and to deal with heavier issues. It is said by one of our administrators that this is one of the most enjoyable committees that he chairs within the South Pacific Division. So if your division hasn't got one of these committees and you are looking for some joy, get a Biblical Research Committee going. It is a great time together. You're not so much dealing with policy and all those other things that we have to deal with. You are digging deep, and it is a great time together. We have held a number of Bible conferences around our division in the last few years. The theme has been recapturing the big picture, and here you see a number of the pictures. We held one in Australia and New Zealand at Avondale College in 2015, followed by one at the Trans-Pacific Union mission in Fulton College in Fiji, followed by another in Papua New Guinea at Pacific Adventist University. And there you can see some of the presenters drawn from Andrews University, from the United States, from BRICOM, and we had and La Sierra University. We had a great time together digging into God's Word. We have published a number of publications in conjunction with Avondale Academic Press. One of them in 2014, Hermeneutics, Intertextuality and the Contemporary Meaning of Scripture. These chapters within the books have come out of some of the meetings we've had in our Biblical Research Committee, some of the gatherings that we've had across the division. In 2014, we also released Biblical and Theological Studies on the Trinity. And then in 2015, we released South Pacific Perspectives on Ordination. biblical, theological, and historical studies in an Adventist context. If any of you are interested in any of these books, I suggest you make first port of call maybe Eckhart, because everybody has your email address, or you could contact some of us, here at the division. I'm a little bit late here, sorry. That's the book on hermeneutics. This is the book on the Trinity, and this is the book on South Pacific Perspectives on Ordination. Finally, some of the projects that we're working on. We're working on a book on gift giving in the Pacific. We're peer reviewing some of the chapters. You may wonder why we're focused on gift giving. It is a cultural custom within the Pacific to give gifts. Sometimes that gift giving goes overboard, goes in the wrong direction, and so we're giving biblical study and cultural study to this practice. In order to achieve this, we're finding that some of our writers are full-time college lecturers. They have difficulty in finding time to write, so we're planning later in the year to actually have a writer's retreat and a workshop where they can focus on their chapters and also spend some time writing up some of their theological dictionary articles. We've also had a think tank on women in ministry and gender equality, and this has led to the establishment of a Division Women in Ministry Advisory Committee to actually support our women in ministry and to help them with the various issues that they face as they are involved in ministry. We review books and manuscripts on potentially contentious theological topics, and it's interesting as I've listened to some of the other divisions, you are facing some of the exact issues that we are facing. You'll notice what we've got here: prophetic interpretation, Holy Spirit, the Trinity, personal revival, last generation theology, perfectionism, etc., etc. We've also had an interesting issue in our division with the international dateline and some changes that were made in that area, and we've spent considerable time and energy researching this and talking about it, particularly in relationship to Samoa, the Sabbath, Samoa, and the international dateline. And that is an ongoing discussion, I guess, but we have spent a lot of time and produced a number of papers. We also spend a lot of time on discussing hermeneutics and biblical interpretation. We see issues as we move around the churches, sometimes demanding much deeper looking into the Word of God and interpreting it correctly. Thank you for your attention, and God bless you all.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the presenters because the time is so short. There's much more to say, but thank you for your report.
All right. I notice we're running out of time, which is good because I don't have a very long report. We are a fairly young BRC. As you can see, the members over here. And I want to thank Eckhart Muller and Kwabena Donkor for coming regularly to our BRCs. We have the division presidents. We have the dean of the School of Religion at Spicer, the E.G. White Center director. Some of them are present over here. The Secretary of the Ministerial Association, the Director of the Department of Education, and some members from the field, a mission president, the Hope Channel Director, editor of the publishing house, and not all of them attend every time, but we have a fairly good group each time that we meet. I don't have pictures because I didn't have time to collect pictures when we were given this assignment, but here's a picture of our Spicer Religion faculty. The ones on the front row, right in front, center is the dean of our School of Religion. Next to him is the E.G. White Center director. When we meet at the college, which is at the university, which is once a year, then all of the faculty of the religion department meet with us and benefit from the discussions that we have. Our editor of the publishing house, who wasn't in the other picture, has a doctorate in Old Testament, meets with us. We meet twice a year, once at the college, the university, and once at the division office.
it's easier to meet at the college. We have just one country in our division. Well, we have 3 other countries, but there's almost no work there. Maldives, nothing. Bhutan, a little bit. Nepal, something, but no scholars. And just one university. So it's easy when we meet over there because the professors are over there. What have we been doing? We prepared the division report for the TOSC, the TOSC. We are participating in the dictionary project. We review articles by BRC, assigned by BRC to members, by the BRI to members of our BRC. The ones that we are participating in, the ones for marriage, we are the experts on arranged marriages and on dowry in marriages. Don't laugh, because arranged marriages are far more successful than love marriages. If any of you have children who are about to be married, I recommend arranged marriages. If you need our help, we'll help you with it. But dowry goes along with that. The blessings of having a BRC, and I'd like to stress some of this. We found, like the SPD, that it's a very nice experience. We have interaction of the SUD theologians with BRI people. They acquaint us with what's happening at the BRI with other BRCs and encourage us. We have interaction of scholars in the field with those in the institutions. Some of them are from the publishing house or the Hope Channel, and some of them are mission presidents. But interacting with the scholars is a good experience. They benefit, and the ones in the institutions also benefit. Then senior and junior theologians interacting is very good. We have some who are very senior, like me, who's actually retired, and some who are just finishing their doctoral degrees and coming to the college. And this interaction is very, very helpful for all of us. Then the interaction between division officers and theologians. You don't always have time to spend one day with a division officer when he's doing something else. But at a BRC, then you have their full attention when they meet with us. So these are the blessings. And those of you who don't have BRCs, I recommend that you start a BRC.
Okay. Good afternoon to you all. After a while, the redundancy sets in. And so I want to spare all of us by indicating that basically all that you have been hearing is happening in our BRC. And I want to say that at the last annual council of the West Central African Division, based on a recommendation from our BRC, an action was taken by the executive committee to send a letter of appreciation to BRI for the support and the contribution. And special mention was made of Elder Eckhard Müller, Elder Kwabena Donko, and Elder Frank Hassel for what they are doing for us. And then I also need to mention that in my report to the Global Leadership Development meetings that took place recently at the beginning of the year in Lisbon, Portugal, I made mention of the contribution of BRI to our work there, particularly in the development of researchers among our faculty. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
The Inter-European Division has probably the most, or the longest standing biblical research committee, established in 1983. And it meets twice a year in spring and fall. We have, I couldn't say we, probably the BRC published a couple of works during its history, studies in the book of Revelation in 1988, the church and its mission in 1993, issues in ecclesiology in 2012. You could see some of the members here of the BRC. It is a closely knit group of theologians. Except for the division officers, we have no church administrators sitting on this board. It's all of them, and this has been a requirement so far, published theologians that already have a long-standing experience in the church and in teaching. The current membership, you can see it here. I will not take too much time, but we try to have a representation of most of our territories and especially higher educational institutions. There are a few books that we published in French and in German, as Eckehard mentioned. I'm not going to read the titles. Currently, we are working on, of course, the Theological Dictionary, and we have been assigned the letter R and another one that we have not touched yet. And we have about almost 240 articles under letter R. I cannot see really what is going on there, but I think 157 are assigned, 16 assigned to BRICOM members, 20 have been approved, and 66 still need to find some authors. And this is one of the challenges. But the strength is that we have reliability. Once articles have been assigned, people work seriously and they respect deadlines. And the second thing is that we have a very good academic standard in our division. We are working on other projects. One is Adventist and Military Service. It's a book that is forthcoming. This is a book that has been in work for the last couple of years. And we hope that by the end of this year, it's going to be out. We are also working on a fresh look at distinctive Adventist beliefs. And you see some of the titles here. I'm not going to read them. Also, we are working on a book on Adventist theology and ethics of work. You can see some of the chapter titles that we try to cover. I'm not going to read them either. And also, we are going to, yeah, this is the same book that we are working on. We have other projects that are in the working phase, but I have to tell you that we have been sidetracked by the theology of ordination study process that took us way more time than we have intended. And now the Theological Dictionary again, it's becoming the main project, but it has not been in the planning as our own project, so that all takes time. I tell you that we work in a very nice and pleasant atmosphere, and friendships are made, and some of these friendships, as you can see in the case of Frank Hazel, have far-reaching effects.
Thank you, gentlemen, thank you very much for your reports, and thank you for your patience with us here and the information that you got, but it's really exciting. It's one of the best things that I can imagine, to have a Biblical Research Institute committee, and also the Institute, sure, and get involved in that directly or indirectly. Thank you for your support and your collaboration.
Thank you so much. As you can see, and you may be dismissed, thank you. As you can see, the theological activities in our church, theology is alive and is active. This is good. Now, we are a little bit over time. And just so that you know what the rest of the program, what we have planned, this is what is still ahead of us. We have 2 short reports, one by Elder Jim Nix and then one by Jerry Page, and then we have planned to have an interesting interview with Ted Wilson. So you want to stay here until the very end, and yes, there will be food after that. So may I ask you, Jim Nix, to come here. I'm so glad to have him here. If you have ever had a chance to listen to him, you will feel that Adventist history comes alive. Listening to Jim Nix is never boring. So you want to give us a short report on the White Estate and the work there.
We exist, we are busy, and we hope you'll use our services.
It can be done.
I learned from Jim. The Ministerial Association exists. We have Ministry Magazine. It's for you. You can publish your articles through us. It's a peer-reviewed journal. You need that. But we need you. We need the articles. We need your prayer. We need your input. Pablo Goya, his father-in-law, had a terrible stroke yesterday. He had to leave this morning. He had a good report for you, but now I'm going to shut myself up early here. But I do want to say to you that I'm excited about our new team. We really believe God led very providentially and miraculously. I'd love to tell you the whole story, is to get both Pablo Goya as our editor and Jeff Brown as our associate editor. They're a wonderful team, complementary gifts. It's really moving. We're looking into the future too. Print journals have to change, you know that. And we're looking at audio version soon, we hope. That'd be nice. We're hoping to have a complete integrated digitalized type thing from on the very beginning clear through the end, merging with Ministry in Motion, our video interviews, all those type of things. So we have an editorial team that is wide open to new things we need to do in print. We still believe in deepening the spiritual life, improving the intellect, and helping the professional skills of the pastors. That's our main goal in ministerial. Ministry Magazine is on its way and good. One other quick thing, we just rolled out Believe He's Prophets. You've heard about it in the different divisions and your leadership groups, institutions. You had order forms. Hopefully you ordered them. It's an excellent quality book. It's been re-edited. It was not edited since 2005. You need to get this for your people, 28 Fundamental Beliefs. John Fowler's done a lot of the editing work. It's got questions in the back of the chapters this time for small groups and that type of thing. If you can get it to NAD at the ABCs and Pacific Press, if you're not able to get it there, Safaliz is the one that printed it. For about $5 in shipping, they can get it to you from Spain. So thank you very much. Keep praying for Ministry Magazine and the Ministerial Association. God bless you.
Thank you, Jerry. We will now have the joy and the opportunity to listen to an interview, live interview with Ted Wilson. The person who is going to lead out in the interview is Felix Cortez. He is a professor of New Testament at Andrews University. And Felix and Ted, I invite you to come to the platform, and the word is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, how are you? You want to stand up and let's sing a song. Let's sing a song so that we can prepare for a good time here of dialogue and conversation. So, Magdiel, okay, let's sing.
Let's sing what we have on the screen. Number 7, if you can project it on the screen, we're going to sing hymn number 7 on our program.
Oh
Let's pray. Dear God, thank you very much for the reports we have heard, for the opportunity to understand how the church is working and growing. And we ask your blessing as we have this moment of dialogue, as that we may learn more about what you want to do through us for the church. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You can have a seat. So Pastor Wilson does not need an introduction. What we're going to do here, and we're very grateful that Pastor Ted Wilson has been with us during all these days. And many of you, I have seen many of you talking with him. But not all of you have had that opportunity, and I want you to consider this as your opportunity for this dialogue. Also, I want to tell you that friends of mine from the South American Division, North America Division, have been passing some papers for you because I want to receive those papers with your questions. And they will be ready, standing in different places to receive those papers as soon as you have them ready. We're going to address 3 issues. Questions about Pastor Wilson. You can ask questions about what is in his heart, about his passions, his life and experience, what you want to know about him. And then you have questions about eschatology in the church. To pick Pastor Wilson's mind about the role of the church, the opportunity and dangers it faces, and its message in the context of the time of the end. And also, we're going to talk about scholars and the church, a very important message, element here. These are questions to pick Pastor Wilson's mind about what is our role in how we can serve the church better. So when you write your questions, you just raise your hand, and one of my scholar friends will bring those questions to the front to John Reeve and Teresa Reeve, and they will help me sort them out and will give it to me, and I will make those questions to Pastor Wilson. So this is basically what we're going to do, and thank you very much for being with us. This morning, you talked to us from the heart, and you talked to us as our pastor. So as I was thinking about how I was going to address you, I am going to address you today as Pastor Ted, because you are pastor of this community, so you're Pastor Ted, and so we are going to ask you several questions. First, Pastor Ted, tell us a little bit about how did you meet Jesus? I know that you grew up as a pastor's kid, but how did you meet Jesus, and how did you decide to become a pastor?
That's a great question, and before I answer it, I just want to tell you I've been seated over there the afternoon, most of the afternoon, like you have. I am so proud, in the right sense of the term, of the Biblical Research Institute Committee and our staff and what they do. I am so grateful to 10 of the divisions for establishing biblical research committees, division biblical research committees. And we'll have to work with the other 3, I guess, to try and encourage them to come along. I'm very grateful also for BRICOM. That's an acronym for Biblical Research Institute Committee, where you send representatives. And we have a very interesting time. And when I sit there in that meeting, and I've done that now for many years, I've been privileged to be there, I am absolutely amazed at the intellect God has given to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. It's unbelievable, the knowledge and the ability to analyze things and to ask perceptive questions and to provide very appropriate care for the documents that are coming out. And it's also a humbling experience for those who have to be on the receiving end of the comments. But they do it with Christian love. I'm extremely grateful also for the Geoscience Research Institute. Tremendous group of people. And Jim, you're right when you said you have perhaps the finest team that we've had. And we've had some wonderful people there, not in any way to discount that. And White Estate, Jim, that was the briefest report I have ever heard.
Everybody loved it. Everybody loved it, yes.
Ministerial Association, thank you for the many resources and encouragement, Jerry, you and your team provide. How did I meet Jesus? Well, I grew up in a home with a father and a mother who loved Jesus. And you could tell it. I never heard, and I've said this before, but I'll say it in this group. I never, ever, ever heard one word from my mother or my father to disparage in even the slightest way the holy word of God or the spirit of prophecy. And I draw a lot of my wonderful support for the Bible and the spirit of prophecy from that early family experience. Now, some of you grew up in homes very different from mine. And you've been exposed to all kinds of things, and that's not to say that your experience is not important. God has led you. But I just have to tell you, from my experience, that was the case. And you know, because my grandfather was a pastor, my father was a pastor, it was expected probably that I would be a pastor. And my parents, you know, they didn't push that. But it was almost kind of expected. And I went through a period of time where I was looking for all kinds of other things. I'm very interested. I'm a frustrated amateur architect. You need to know that. I love drawing plans. I love to work. I enjoy carpentry work, renovation at home. My wife says, "Do you know what you're doing?" I say, "Not exactly, but we hope it'll work out."
It will work out.
and it usually does. You know, the roof has not caved in. But in fact, in a few days, next month, we'll be going to one of our daughter's homes and her husband, and we'll be doing some renovation, knocking out a wall and doing this and that and finish work. I enjoy that kind of thing. But the real aspect of how I met Jesus was, I suppose, a progression. Yes, I was interested in architecture. Yes, I thought about going into medicine. I thought about going into dentistry. My father encouraged me to take, interestingly enough, a double major in college. I took a double major at what was then known as Columbia Union College, a double major in religion, not theology, but religion, and then I also took Greek because I wanted to go to the seminary, and business administration. So I got a double major. And I used to get teased, well, you're either going to be a very religious businessman or a rich minister. Well, anyway. But, you know, I don't think it was, and all the way along you learn how to connect with the Lord, you learn about Scripture, you learn about, my father's favorite book was Steps to Christ, other than the Bible, of course. And so you draw things like that, but you know, you have to make the experience your own. And I suppose it was not until I was about 21, and I was in a field school of evangelism in San Jose, California. I can remember that. And there was a very perceptive gentleman. And he asked me a question, and this is a question that gets asked, at least in that era, it was quite a question. If the Lord were to come tonight, would you be ready? And I gave the standard Adventist answer. Well, you know, of course, it depends on what the Lord wants and how he looks at him. And yes, but do you have the assurance of salvation? And I had to admit that I really hadn't considered that. And I look at that point as a kind of a tipping point as to where I really, at that point, in that age, and that was at 21 years old. So, I mean, you know the impact you have on the students that you're dealing with. I look at that time as kind of a little bit of a watershed. Of course, I keep growing. And my wife is an expert in helping me to continue to focus on the Word of God. She loves the Word of God. She reads it very earnestly, and Spirit of Prophecy. We both together are learning how to love Jesus. And I'd say it's a lifelong process.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Beautiful. Let me ask you a tricky question. Where are you from? I know that you were born in Washington, but you grew up in Egypt. So, are you American? Are you African? What are you?
I was very fortunate, I have to tell you, and those of you who have not had an experience living outside another country, in heaven you'll have that experience. But I was so fortunate to grow up in Cairo, Egypt. I know nothing from my background except Egypt and Libya and Lebanon and Italy. Interestingly, in 1956, which is before some of you were born, we were shipped out of Egypt by the United States Sixth Fleet because of the Suez Crisis. And everyone left, all of our church members, our leaders, everyone left, missionaries left, my mother and sister and I left. My father stayed in Egypt. He was the president of what was then known as the Nile Union. And he stayed in Egypt in order to assure our church members that they were not being abandoned. So he stayed there during this very troubled time. I mean, I can remember the British, the French, and the Israelis coming over Cairo, bombing certain sites and all of that. Fortunately, that Suez Crisis was resolved. But the first place that we went to Crete, and then we went to Italy, and then finally to Lebanon. We stayed about 5 months there. Very precious experiences. But the only experiences I have are basically those 4 countries until I came to the United States at about the age of 8. So my earliest memories, everything is the Middle East. And in my heart, I am really a Middle Easterner. So also my family, my grandparents lived in southern Africa in several countries, in Malawi, in Zambia, in South Africa. They lived in India, they lived in Australia, they lived in Indonesia. So our family has a kind of an international picture. Yes. Nancy and I have had the privilege of living in Africa and in Russia, and I guess I'm just a citizen of heaven and claim a lot of places as home.
It's good to know. It is not an identity crisis, but it's a very clear Adventist identity, I think. Very good. Now, what has been your experience at this Bible conference? What has caught your attention? What did you like the best? What has stimulated your thinking the most?
I think it was an absolutely superb stroke of genius to focus on eschatology. The timing couldn't be better.
Amen.
Everything around us is pointing towards Christ's soon return. And I think BRI has done an excellent job in pointing towards that. I think the plenary sessions have been very stimulating. Of course, there are a lot of papers, a lot of presentations. Some you may have some comments or questions about. Some are more involved than others. But I have been very, very pleased with the kind of focus that we've had on last day events. And this is so appropriate. And I hope that the people who are here will take this momentum to every division. We have 13 world divisions and 1 attached union, the Middle East North Africa Union, and 1 attached field. Some of you may not know that, but the Israel field is attached to the General Conference. And we are so proud of what God is doing in those places as well. Magdiel Perez serves as the chair of the supervising committee of both of those fields. So I hope you will take what you have gained here and what you will gain through Wednesday back home and ignite not only your campuses, but your divisions with a perspective that we're going home soon.
Thank you very much. But is there anything that called your attention in this meeting? Any aspect of it that has impacted you, that has stimulated your thinking or ideas? Is there anything else that especially brings to your mind something important?
Other than the fact that we're holding it in Rome, which I find extremely interesting, I think the interest on the part of so many and the attendance that has been here. You know, you can have all kinds of little subcommittees outside and all that kind of thing, but I have I have been very pleased with how intent and focused people are on the subjects and their involvement.
Yes, I was amazed by the energy I felt, and you have felt that too. I have here this question. It is often said that there is a gap between administrators and scholars. What are your thoughts on this perception?
I think it's extremely important for administrators to be in touch with theologians, to listen to what their concerns are, but also for theologians to understand the big picture as well. Now, many of you are in touch with the local fields. Many of you are holding evangelistic meetings, you're holding seminars, you're holding extension classes, and that is extremely important. But I think administrators also need to take a deeper interest in what is actually happening in the seminaries and in the activities of what is taking place, because we need each other. We cannot just rely on a simple approach to scholarly work without those who have the skills and the understanding. On the other hand, scholars and theologians must always remember where they came from and how they got there, and to make things practical. Yes. Our church members are not interested in listening to some extremely erudite presentation that you have that is far longer than Jim Nix's speech. In fact, it was interesting what Eckhart said. I thought that was really interesting about his mother. She was saying, why do you keep researching all this? I mean, everything is already settled. And to a great extent, many of our church members feel that way. So the presentations that are made should not be ones which kind of bring cynicism and skepticism, but to bring enlightenment and encouragement and hope. That's really what our church members and the public are looking for. But we need each other.
Pastor Ted, you have traveled around the world more than anyone here, and you know the church better than anyone here. If you wished a book was written by a theologian on any topic that will benefit the church, what topic that would be? What kind of book that would be? Everyone needs to publish here something, so we need to find topics. What topic would you recommend?
Well, I suppose we could list a number, but I'll tell you where in English we have this saying, and I think probably in other languages too, where the rubber meets the road, where it is practical. I think somehow we need more books on helping church members to understand why we believe something and how it makes a practical impact on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and Sunday, and Friday, and Sabbath. They know what to do on Sabbath. But what about the rest of the time? I think the more practical aspect, and this is not within the academic community, I'm talking about church members. Yeah. In the academic community, you can, again, go into very esoteric subjects and speak the language that you understand. If you speak that language with church members, and that's the majority of our church, you will quickly turn them off. What they want to know is, how can I know Jesus better and tell somebody else about it? So the things that are practical, I think, are perhaps the most beneficial to the world church in a general sense. In a very specific academic sense, yes, there are still questions, as Eckhart has alluded to, many questions that still need refinement, and those, I think, can certainly, we can make long lists of those. But in the area of prophecy, in the area of practical Christian living, in the area of who we are as Seventh-day Adventists and the historical roots, these are things people love to hear about. And a book about the second coming. You want to write a book that people will really enjoy? Write about eschatology.
Thank you. Here I have another question. How well are we probably currently incorporated righteousness by faith into our eschatology? How do standards such as dress fit in?
What we do, lifestyle, how we live, is all reflected by who we know and our everyday experience with Jesus. I think in a great way, it is so important for the church to address the things that will help people understand how to live in the very last days of Earth's history. Now, in terms of eschatology and how practical things fit into that, righteousness by faith, let me tell you, if you are not preaching on righteousness by faith, if righteousness by faith, and by that I mean the complete aspect of righteousness by faith, not just justification, but sanctification, both of them are composite in righteousness by faith in Jesus Christ. You cannot improve yourself by a sanctification checklist. It is only as the Holy Spirit lives in and through you. Work out your own salvation, but you got to keep reading. It is God who works in you to do and to will according to his great pleasure. Righteousness by faith is got to be one of the strongest areas of proclamation by Seventh-day Adventist ministers and leaders. And if you're focusing on a very fluffy, non-committal Christian approach, don't worry about that, don't worry, just believe and just don't, that's the wrong side. If you're working on a very legalistic, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're on the wrong side as well. That's why the Bible says, let your moderation be known. Stay in the middle of the road. Understand that righteousness by faith involves, yes, absolute righteousness given to us in the garment of Christ's righteousness, justifying us. But at the same time, the Holy Spirit then enters into you and you become more and more like Jesus, not because you're doing it, but because you're connected with the source that can do it. So righteousness by faith is a huge topic for me. Do we understand all about it? No. That's probably another good book to write. Although I have to tell you, I don't personally want us to get into another big fight like the church had probably 30 years ago. Let's not do that. Let's use the resources that we have. And let me say something about the spirit of prophecy. I mean, I use it a lot, and some people say, you use it too much, and on and on and on. Well, they don't have to use it if they don't want to, but I'll tell you, spirit of prophecy to me is one of God's greatest gifts to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The Bible itself is our rule of faith. It is our only rule of faith, but the spirit of prophecy is so rich, and it's so relevant. I mean, you talk about relevancy. My doctoral dissertation at New York University, which is a completely secular university, was on the theory of Ellen White's urban religious work as it relates to New York City. Well, that's what I was even doing in New York, so it was a great opportunity. I mean, the stuff that's in the spirit of prophecy. You want to read a great book? Now, Jim knows I love this book, Medical Ministry. This book is not just for physicians, it's for every single one of us. Read that compilation. Some of you don't like compilations. This is a great one. Medical Ministry. But I think righteousness by faith has to be a capstone for the way we present the three angels' messages. It's not all gloom and doom. It is the righteousness of Christ, turning people back to the true worship of God. I mean, again, how ironic that we're in Rome, when we're going to have not only just a kilometer or two away, we're not only going to have that, but we're going to have apostate Protestantism, we're going to have spiritualism. Those of you who are doing research and know what's happening, spiritualism is all over the place.
That's true.
In every culture now. And when you get that triumvirate that is going to take over, You will not be able to escape except you stand on the Word of God. You won't even be able to believe what you hear or see except you say, no, this Word says this, and I know that's the case, even though I see something different. So righteousness by faith has to fit very heavily into our eschatology. How else are you going to get to heaven?
Yes, thank you very much. Now that you were mentioning your experience in New York University and your dissertation, this ties in very well with a question that we have here, because you were studying at a non-Adventist university, and we have many students that will go into non-Adventist universities. And the question here, what advice do you have for us as teachers and church leaders to strengthen our Adventist identity as among students and church members, especially our university students that will go, many of them, to public universities, I guess?
I'll tell you right away. Mike Ryan was here today and was with us yesterday. He was here because we had another meeting on Thursday with one of our divisions. We are going to have a what we call Future Plans Working Group. It's a strategic plan for the next quinquennium. We do this pretty much every quinquennium. We look at data, we look at surveys, we look at information, all this kind of thing. Mike was telling me, Mike was telling me, and this is what we're going to focus on heavily, the data is coming in from around the world, that the greatest challenge we have is to get our church members back to reading this book and the Spirit of Prophecy. It's not that some of our church members are against the Spirit of Prophecy or against the Bible itself. They just don't read it.
That's true.
And I think that probably is one of the greatest things that you as scholars can do, is to help our church members make this relevant, make it real. And I am hoping that as we continue, not only in the academic circles, but certainly in administrative circles, in whether it's in GRI or BRI or in your division, whatever it is, that you will lift up the Word of God. Now, last year, you know, we were featuring in a strong way the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation. You know, there are dangers, I'm going to deviate here a little bit, but there are dangers in associating with groups of people in commemorating certain things that we hold in common, because people twist everything. My wonderful friends from Euro-Asia Division, I mean, I consider that one of my divisions. It's just, we only spent about 4 years connected, but let me tell you, those were interesting 4 years. Michael Kaminsky invited me to stay to the end of our their year-end meeting, and in fact, I left that very night, and we traveled, Nancy and I traveled from Moscow to what was it? One of the very large cities in China, and then on to Malaysia. The only way that we could get there was to go on an airline I have to recommend to all of you. Now, I'm not getting paid for this, and it's Sabbath. I'm not doing advertising. But we went on an airline called China Southern Airlines. Never heard of it in my life, and I was afraid, are we going to get there? I think we landed in Hangzhou is where it was, and then on to Sabah, to Malaysia. I want to tell you, that airline is the best airline I have ever flown on. They were just so solicitous of everything. And you know, anyway, before that, in the afternoon, we went to the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation in Moscow, in one of, I think it was called, what is it, Pankov House or something? Pashkov House. Beautiful location, just overlooking Red Square. It was a lovely place. We had all kinds of religious leaders there. We had government people from the Russian Federation. We had German representatives, on and on and on. There were ambassadors and everything. And they asked me to say a few words, so I spoke for about 5-6 minutes. And in that little short time, and Michael was translating for me, wonderful to work with Michael. He and I have had a wonderful relationship for many years in working together. And so I wove into it the 5 pillars of the Protestant Reformation. Nobody had done that in the whole time that we were there. I wove into it the 3 angels' messages. Can you imagine that? I wove into it a biblical reference. Hardly anyone had spoken about the Bible. And it was a great privilege to be there. Well, come to find out, and I'm just telling you this because when you try to do something in a public way, people will misunderstand you. Don't worry about it. Do what you think is right according to God's injunction and according to His counsel. A picture shows up on the internet with Michael and with me standing there along with representative from the Russian Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church and many other churches. And someone says, Wilson is standing in favor of what the papal nuncio just proclaimed. We were standing for the Russian national anthem. And we were there for the 500th anniversary of the Protestant Reformation. So you know what? Just be a little careful, but do that which you know to be right and that which is important. But getting back to our eschatology, you will need to stand up and be counted regardless of what it costs.
Yes, thank you. We're coming to the end of our time, so I would like you to address this meeting. We are a sector of the church. These are professors, theologians. What is the best way that we can contribute to the church? You have mentioned some things. Is there anything else that you would like to say to scholars, to professors, theologians that are present here?
I would say make your students so in love with Jesus that when they graduate, they are some of the most powerful spiritual forces on this planet. Don't let them ever escape your institution without a vision for mission. Oh, you can teach them to preach. You can teach them to understand the resources that they can access. You can teach them how to think analytically, but if you don't instill in them mission, they're of very little value to the church. In that beautiful book by Paul, who died here in Rome, we're not sure where he was imprisoned, but it could have been at the prison that some of us saw. But in that beautiful 9th verse of chapter 6 and verse 10, also 9 and 10, let us not grow weary while doing good, for in due season we shall reap if we do not lose heart. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all, especially to those who are of the household of faith. I would encourage all of you as leaders on campuses to focus on making your students such powerful instruments of doing good through the power of the Holy Spirit that we will see the Lord finish this work.
Amen.
Very quickly, and then truly the eschaton will completely happen.
Amen.
May that be our experience.
Thank you very much. We are very thankful for this opportunity. And I would like to invite all the audience to join with me in a prayer, special prayer. I have asked 2 friends that I have most regard for. I have asked Angel Rodriguez and Jacques Ducan to pray a special prayer for you. And I would like to invite Nancy to come so that we can pray pray for you as members of this church, Pastor Ted, as members of this congregation. And if you want to join me with me, let's stand up. And I will invite Pastor Angel Rodriguez and Pastor Ducan. They will pray first, Jacques Ducan. And if you want to join, you can approach, and we can touch each other when we pray for others. If you want to approach, and we can put our hands in the shoulder of Pastor Ted Wilson and pray for him.
These are two good friends and two people of our leadership, esteemed people. Jacques, I'm going to ask you something. You may not want to do this, but I want you to pray in French. There are many here who will understand you, and I will understand you. I won't understand if you pray in Spanish, but at least a few words.
Thank you. Some have joined. If everyone else wants to join somehow, I will be very glad that we could join and have hands together as we pray together for Pastor Wilson and Nancy Wilson.
Notre Dieu, notre Père, qui nous voit, qui nous aime, nous venons t'implorer pour que tu nous donnes la sagesse, ta sagesse, pas n'importe laquelle, pas celle qui nous fait croire que nous sommes importants, mais celle qui nous rapproche de toi, qui nous rapproche les uns des autres, qui nous rapproche de ton royaume, de ta venue. Merci notre Dieu pour ces moments que nous avons passés ensemble, qui nous ont enrichis, qui nous ont rapprochés les uns des autres et qui nous ont rapprochés de toi. Merci pour tout ce que tu nous as donné au cours de ces instants et pour ce temps tout particulier dans cette ville particulière qui a ce sens que tu connais, que tu nous as donné, un sens qui nous rend plus proches de toi, plus proches de ton royaume, un sens de ce que nous sommes, de ce que tu nous as donné, de notre identité. Rends-nous conscients, notre Dieu, de tout ce que nous te devons, de tout ce que nous sommes, pour que nos paroles soient, pour que notre recherche, pour que notre œuvre soit plus proche de la réalité encore, plus proche de ta volonté. Nous te prions, notre Dieu, pour Pasteur Ted Wilson et pour sa femme. Nous te remercions pour ces moments que nous avons passés avec eux, qui nous ont rapprochés les uns des autres et d'eux aussi. Te prions de lui donner la sagesse qui vient de toi, de lui donner la force aussi pour mener à bien ce que tu as mis dans son cœur et dans son esprit, de lui donner encore plus l'amour et le regard vers les autres, même si parfois il n'y a pas toujours la compréhension. Donne-lui justement ce regard qui est le tien, qui lui permet de voir au-delà du visible. Merci encore une fois, notre Dieu, pour tout ce que tu nous donnes et pour l'horizon que tu nous donnes, horizon d'espérance. Nous te prions au nom de Jésus. Amen.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we stand before you with joy in our hearts and gratitude. Thank you for the gift of Elder Wilson and Nancy. For years you prepared them, you guided them, at times walking through wonderful valleys, flowing waters, at times through difficult terrain, and yet you brought them to us. Thank you, Lord, for the blessings that you have bestowed on them and through them to the church. This afternoon, we thank you for placing in the hearts of both of them a burning desire to see the gospel proclaimed throughout the world, so that you will come soon to meet us. Give both of them wisdom, so that they may know every day how to guide and inspire the church as the church procures to fulfill its mission. Amen. We thank you, Lord, because you placed in their hearts the vision to motivate the church to have a closer relationship with you. Amen. Give them not only wisdom, but the power needed for that motivation to become a reality even more in the life of the church. Amen. And this afternoon, we, together with you, with them, reconsecrate ourselves to the mission of the church and to a life full of energy moved by the Spirit within the church. Amen. Bless us, Lord. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen. Amen. We pray always for you, always. Oh, and prayer.
If you would just give us a few seconds of your attention. Thank you, first of all, Elder Wilson, for, as we would say, Brother Wilson. That's the typical way we address brothers and sisters in the church where I come from. Thank you for your willingness to share from your heart and for being with us here at this conference. We appreciate that. I know your day would not be complete without some final announcements. And so we will not disappoint you at on this important point. Elias Brasil de Sousa has a few important announcements, and then we want to close that day with another prayer, and then you're free to go wherever you need to go. Thank you.
After such a wonderful afternoon, the least thing I would like to do was to make announcements. I think we should live with this spirit that we had here this afternoon. It was wonderful. But the first announcement is that you have the evening free. The second announcement is that dinner has not started yet. It will take us 15, 20 minutes for the dining room to open. So don't need to rush. There is food for everybody. By 7, they should be preparing everything there for you. Now that you relaxed, let me go to the announcements, actually. Those involved in the commentary, the new Seventh-day Adventist commentary, or the Seventh-day Adventist International Bible Commentary, which is being edited by Jacques Ducan, Dr. Ducan, they are invited to go to room Moesia for dinner because there's some agenda, he needs a meeting with them. So everyone, the executive committee of the SDIBC and the authors are invited to go there. Where is this room located? As you approach the hallway to our official dining room, you'll see indications there. So it's very easy to find it. There will be a big sign there, so you are welcome there. But don't forget to bring your badge. Okay. Andrews University would like to have a group picture soon after we are dismissed from here. You should stay here, and all the professors, former professors, alumni, everyone, whoever attended Andrews University are welcome to stay because they would like to have a group picture of everybody here. So please stay around. Also, the delegates of all the African divisions, SID, WAD, and ECD are also invited to stay somewhere here in the corner because the division presidents are here and want a meeting with them. So please stay. And I'm sure they will stay. Now let me talk a little bit about water. So water is very important. In the Bible, water is a symbol, a metaphor for salvation. We have a few issues in regards to water. There is water usually outside this room for the benefit of all those who are attending, for the hydration of those who are here. But some people are coming with their bottles and filling and taking them to their rooms. This is not the purpose. This is not holy water. You can find holy water a couple of miles from here, but not here. To my knowledge, there was no right performance of these bottles by the GC. No, so it's just normal water. So please do that. And also the water that is served in the dining room are to be used there. Drink whatever you need there, but do not bring them to your rooms or don't fill your bottles. The people there, the servers and the people in charge of the place, they will find very strange because the water was evaporating too quickly until they found what was happening. So, but this happens, okay. Another important announcement. As we are here with the Bible conference, there are other events going on in this hotel, other meetings, other conferences, other places where we can go and eat, but you shouldn't. So some of our delegates have been there. Although we have an outreach commitment to reach the whole world, we should go there, but not reach their food. So let's keep going to our own dining rooms, okay, where we have the food that we need. This morning we had an incident with air conditioning. As you probably remember, at a certain time here during the Sabbath school, this room became very hot. And some people came to complain to me. And of course I had to call, I think, Sherry, Daniele, probably 3 or 4 or 5 people got involved to solve the problem until we found out what happened. Some of our delegates, which I don't know who it was, went to the office of the hotel and asked them to turn off the air conditioning. So this was a big problem. So we eventually found out what was happening and we solved. So I would ask you, if you have any situation here that you need to solve, please come to us. And we'll do our best to help you if it's in our power to do so. And besides, the rooms, they have a certain number of chairs. So I would plead with you, do not change chairs, because then you create a problem for some of the sessions. One of these days, when we came to the afternoon session in this auditorium, there is a big hole in the middle. There are lots of chairs that were missing, so we had to rush and bring them here. There is chairs in all the rooms for the sessions that equal the number of delegates that we have. So if you go to a session, it's too full, don't bring chairs. Go to another session, and you'll find a chair there. So another important information, tomorrow we will have a wonderful day. We have several interesting papers, so I encourage you to come and let's engage the discussions, the sessions. Let's be here for the devotional. We have plenaries. We have, in the end of the day, panel session, issues in eschatology, and I think that will be a great day. So I encourage you to keep moving. I know we may be tired, but you can rest this evening, this night, and tomorrow you'll be fine. Finally, I have a very positive announcement or a communication to make. Yesterday, we went to the catacombs. And when you come back, some of you even come to me and they told me, this was my best day. Some of you enjoyed, really. I was very concerned because the logistics of the catacombs in connection with the Via Appia was complicated, as you could see. But thanks to the Lord, everything went perfectly all right. We are not under a tourist company because the catacombs is an isolated entity. We have to deal with them. So Daniele was there. We had to go to the Via Appia by ourselves, walking through to the Via Appia itself with cars, but the Lord helped us. And Daniele told me today that since he was the one who was making the connections with the leadership, with the administration of the catacombs, that he received a very, very important and significant feedback. They told him that our group was the largest group they ever received there. And they were very impressed with the demeanor, with the spirit of the group. So we gave a very good testimony. So my appeal to you is, bring the spirit of the catacomb to these meetings. Thank you.
Yes, let's continue in that spirit. And I would like to ask Dr. Steger, Carlos Steger, to have the closing prayer. Dr. Steger is the Dean of the School of Theology at the Universidad Adventista del Plata, River Plate University in Argentina.
I invite you to stand for a benediction. Our Heavenly Father, we are very thankful for this day, for the blessing you have bestowed upon us, for the messages we have received, and overall we are thank you for Jesus Christ, our Savior, our Redeemer, soon to come. Lord, as we have heard many aspects of committees, institutions, and different activities that the church is involved on, we ask your blessing upon each one of them and each one of us as we continue this conference and after as we return to our countries, to our own activities. Above all, we reconsecrate our lives to you and to the mission of this church. Lord, help us every day to reflect more completely the character of Jesus. In his name we pray. Amen.